And a pleasant good evening to you wherever you might be listening, whether it's Avon, Ohio or Evansville, Indiana. I'm Matthew Will. He's Austin Hernandez, joining you from the luxury of my own apartment to bring you Evansville Otters baseball once again here on the road as the team is facing the Lake Erie Crushers. Before we get into any more of the game, I want to issue a special welcome on to Austin, making your first appearance on this side of ODN. Usually you're the man on the back end, running things back at home. Glad to have you on.
I appreciate your hospitality, welcoming me into your own apartment, and I appreciate this opportunity to get to announce for my first time.
Now, obviously, you have spent a lot of time looking at this Lake Erie or this Otters team, and Lake Erie for that matter, as they've come to Evansville quite a few times. But this is an Evansville team that has started to fall into a hole that they don't necessarily want to be in, but they're lucky. Both Washington and Schaumburg have done the same thing, so they're still only 4.5 games out of a playoff spot. We do want to take a look at what the standings look like as we enter today. And, you know, Washington and Schaumburg both losing last night really helped this team to not only get their game back, but also kind of set themselves up to have a productive weekend. Washington still leading the way at 43-24. They lost to Gateway last night. In fact, Gateway carried a no-hitter into the 9th inning against the Wild Things. Evansville's 4.5 games back now. Schaumburg at 8 back. Gateway at 10, both Juliet and Lake Erie sitting at 11. That's where things start to get spaced out. Windy City's fallen 16.5 games back. Their tragic number is 22. They've got to get something going very quickly to avoid being the next team eliminated from playoff contention. Quebec has lost 5 straight games in the East Division, and because of it, Ottawa's moved to within 5 games. Sussex County's moved to within 6.5, and from there on, everyone's decided by about 3 games. Other than the Empire State Grays. Kind of fun to see the East Division finally closing up and some teams taking this opportunity to get a lot of movement in. The team that really surprised me last night was obviously Gateway. Big win on the road at Washington. Does that make you worried for this weekend when we've got to see Gateway come to town now that they can take down a juggernaut like Washington?
I don't, just because it seems like, at least for this year, Evansville has Gateway's number, and it works out as a benefit for Evansville that Gateway has Washington's number. As you mentioned last night, having the no-hitter go into the 9th inning, it's kind of nice for us after a slow start back from the All-Star break to have Gateway kind of help us out. As much as them being our rivals, we don't want to see Gateway win. So it was nice to see them take that no-hitter until the 9th.
Well, they have concluded the quick meeting at the mound, and they're just about to get set for the national anthem. So it's at this time that we will take a look through the starting 9 for both squads. First, for the visiting team, the Evansville Otters, Elijah Mcnamee is going to return to the Edward Jones leadoff hitter spot, playing right field this evening. He's followed by the designated hitter, Zach Bierman, who returns to the 2-hole for the first time in, I believe, 3 weeks. And then Jeffrey Baez playing left and batting third, followed by J.R. Davis, the 4th hitting third baseman. Batting 5th is the first baseman, Steven Sensley. Batting 6th, the center fielder, Miles Gordon, who is playing in his 400th career professional game today. Big congratulations to him on that career milestone. Justin Felix is catching and batting in the 7-hole this evening. Shortstop George Khalil bats 8th, and Andy Armstrong rounds out the starting 9. Brett Adcock, the lefty, up on the mound for Evansville this evening. As for the Lake Erie Crushers, the home team this evening, wearing their purple grape jerseys, as the purple and green are their 2 jersey colors. It's kind of their nod to the grape logo that they have. Leading off will be the third baseman, Connor Owings, hard-hitting third baseman there. Got to keep an eye on him. Also have to keep an eye on the hard-hitting first baseman, Jackson Valera. He'll bat second. Kimuel Thomas Rivera bats third and plays second base. Coco Figurito and Keenan Irizarry swap places in the lineup. Figurito batting in the 4 spot, DHing this evening. Irizarry, the shortstop, he'll bat 5th. Then it's the center fielder, Austin White, batting 6th. The right fielder is Sean Sheely. He's batting 7th. He was ejected from last night's game in the bottom of the 1st inning after arguing a close play at first that both Zane and I thought probably should have gone the other way, but a new day for Sean Sheely. He's followed by the 8-hole hitter, catcher Brian De La Rosa, and the 9-hole hitter is the left fielder Jake Gitter, another solid piece of offense in this Lake Erie lineup. The starting man for Lake Erie this evening is Gunnar Kynes, another lefty, and the Otters this year have struggled a bit when it comes to the left-handed pitchers. I want to walk you through what's going on thus far in the Frontier League tonight. New York has a 16-10 win against Rivera this morning. New Jersey gave Quebec their 5th straight loss. That final was 5-2 there at Yogi Berra Stadium. In the bottom of the third, Gateway and Washington still scoreless. They're in Washington, Pennsylvania. As of right now, there is no no-hitter going on. Washington off to a better start than yesterday. In the top of the second, the Tri-City Valley Cats holding up to a 2-1 lead against Ottawa. Last night we saw Tri-City trail by 1 going into the 7th inning. Then they came back and scored 5 unanswered to take a win against Ottawa. That was probably a little bit of a break for Quebec. In the bottom of the second inning, Florence and Schaumburg, they are still scoreless there from Florence. They went to extra innings last night as well. And then Empire State at Sussex County, the one other game going on this evening. Evansville and Lake Erie are the final game to get started here on a beautiful Wednesday night in the Frontier League. And, you know, this has been a week that I've obviously had my eye on Gateway at Washington, but it is surprising to see New Jersey, a team who has sat in the bottom half of the East Division for so long, get 2 big wins against Quebec.
It's August. That's all I can say. And with Quebec having their 5th straight loss, as you mentioned, you know, they started to struggle against, you know, the series of the weekend this past weekend with Quebec playing Washington and Washington. So it's kind of shocking to see Quebec kind of fall, especially with how dominant they were at the beginning of the season heading into the All-Star break. And like I said, it's August. Any team is in it except the Empire State Grays, sadly. But any team is in it, so it should be an exciting final month heading into the postseason.
As you could tell, the only 2 teams I did not mention, Joliet and Windy City, they are playing a 2-game set to make up for 4-game sets they're playing in other parts of the season. So they are both off on this Wednesday night. They'll play again tomorrow night. Kind of interesting how that series happens to fall with the off day being in the middle of it. But we'll see those 2 teams face off once again tomorrow. I want to look forward to what we're going to see this weekend series-wise, as there are a couple of interesting ones to look at. Trois-Rivières at Quebec. That is a surging Eagles team right now. If they can pick up some good wins at Quebec and keep the losing streak going for Quebec, that's a big chance for Trois-Rivières to hop up into a potential playoff spot. Another one I'm keeping an eye on is Lake Erie at Washington. This Lake Erie team has been very good in these recent weeks, but the big thing coming into today, again, is they've had more added to their COVID inactive list. Matt Mulhern, the great pitcher, Paul Kanasowicz, and Casey Combs for Lake Erie, all added to the COVID inactive list. We'll see if that plays into the favor of the Otters, because obviously Matt Mulhern is a solid pitcher that Evansville might have had to see in this series. It's probably a better thing that they don't have to. Now, of course, we wish those 3 the best and that they are able to make quick recoveries back to their lineup. But if they are staying out of even the Washington series as well, big chance for the Wild Things to start to right their ship. Getting set up on the mound is this evening's starter for Lake Erie, the lefty gunner, Kynes. Kynes is entering tonight's contest with a solid year thus far. We've seen him a couple of times in the Otters Crushers series thus far. He's played in 11 games, all of them starts this year, a 2-3 record, and a 4.31 ERA. In his 56 and a third innings of work, he struck out 68. That is second best on the team to Jay Alvarez, who we saw last night. Only has 17 walks next to that. It's a guy who is really going to make you work hard at the plate.
And as you mentioned, Evansville likes to struggle against left-handed pitchers. And against Evansville so far, Kynes has pitched 11 innings with only 9 hits and 18 strikeouts against Evansville. So if Evansville can find a way to get to Kynes early, it'll take them out of the game early and allow them to possibly get hits against a right-handed pitcher.
Otters are 5-9 against lefties this season. They'll look to get things going on the better way. I want to make sure that we mention that it's Kynes on the mound, De La Rosa behind the plate. That pitcher-catcher battery is sponsored by our friends at Answer Auto Repair East. Find all your battery needs at the Answer Auto Repair East, located at 2319 North Green River Road, or give them a call at 812-475-9000. Let them know that Zane from the Otters sent you. We are set for first pitch here from Avon, Ohio at 6:06 p.m. to the Edward Jones leadoff hitter of the game, Elijah Mcnamee. First pitch temperature is 89 degrees, very windy, about a 15-mile-an-hour wind blowing out towards center field. See if that favors any of these hitters. Last night it was a straight in wind. Instead, it's partly cloudy in Avon as well. A 1-0 is driven out towards right field. Driving back towards the wall is Chile at the warning track, and it bounces off the wall. Mcnamee is going to come into second, standing up for a leadoff double. Boy, does that feel good for Elijah Mcnamee. A couple games ago, really struggled. His last 2 opportunities have both been pitch hitting. chances, struck out in both. That's a great way to get back on the ship.
I like the trust that Andy has for Elijah Mcnamee, putting him right back at the leadoff spot. And as you mentioned, the wind that hit was carrying out to right field. Obviously, the right fielder couldn't track it well and bounce off the wall. It's a great start for Mcnamee. Hopefully he can build upon this and get back on track in later games.
All those Mississippi State fans out there, ring the cowbells a little bit louder. Big hit Max got himself a leadoff double. Brings up Zach Bierman, the lefty, a DH who is hitting in the 2-hole tonight. He's got the New Jersey Jackals logo next to him on our screen right now as we're watching the Flow Sports stream. So a little mix up there for Bierman.
Is there a trade we didn't know happened?
I hope not. Bierman last night had a solid night, helping his average out. He's up to 291. He's trying to become the first Otter to be batting over 300 in nearly a month. In fact, the only Otter batting 300 or higher right now is Dakota Phillips, who's been out for just over a month now. In fact, today is the 1-month date from when he got injured with the hand injury. He's the only one batting over 300 right now on the Otters roster. Bierman flings the bat to the right side, and the foul ball goes the opposite way. And hard to tell if it got caught or not. It ended up in the glove of third baseman Connor Owings, and I can't tell if it was an out. It was indeed. So must have been a foul out to the left side to Connor Owings, as Zach Bierman is going to have to go find that bat as it went flying down the right field line. And it's out number 1 in this ball game. Officially, it's a fly out to third base. Brings up Jeffrey Baez, who was the only Otter with a multi-RBI outing last night. One of those RBIs came in the top of the 10th inning as he brought in Steven Sensley on a fielder's choice. There was almost a double play turned by Lake Erie, but they could not quite get it. Bierman crushes a ball down the left field line, and it's going to end up just foul down there. There's that hill out in left field here at Avon, Ohio. The last time the Otters were here, Jeffrey Baez mashed a home run over that left field wall. I said yesterday that I believed, and I went back to try to find it, 458 is what they clocked the home run as on that night. It was a booming home run to left. Love to see Jeffrey Baez do it again.
I tell you what, if Baez gets a hold of one here like he did on that first foul ball, that'll put Evansville in a great position against the left-handed pitcher in Kynes, who has dominated them in this season so far.
Well, the downside is that it's another foul ball, so it's an 0-2 count for Baez. But the positive thing is they were both pulled to the left side, which means he's on top of the ball. He's swinging a little bit early, which is good to see for a guy who, when he strikes out, is usually behind the pitch. Lot of wind. If you happen to be watching on Flow Sports, you see it as well. Center field camera out there just barely hanging on as an 0-2 pitch comes home to the righty, Jeffrey Baez. Stays high about eye level for ball 1. And when they have shown the home plate camera, you can see the flag fully out towards center field. It is a hefty wind, 15 mile an hour as we get started here in Avon. See if the Otters can use that to their advantage. Mcnamee stands on second, 1 out, and a 1-2 count. Comes home to Jeffrey Baez. Bounces in for ball 2, and the count evens up.
Baez being really selective with his pitches so far. As you mentioned, the first ball on the third pitch was a fastball up and in. He kind of hesitated when he swung, obviously just checked the swing, and then that pitch was in the dirt. So being selective with his pitches, and as I mentioned before, if he gets a hold of one here, especially with this wind dead straight to center field, I wouldn't expect that 458-foot home run to be topped easily.
Gunnar Kynes ready to go on a 2-2 to Baez. Push towards the right side. It will get out of play. Or maybe it's going to hang down the line. It did stay just foul. Would have been a home run ball if it stayed fair, but because Baez is a righty, it curves off towards that right side. And Baez is going to have to walk back towards home. Count remains at 2-2. Want to say a big shout out to Big Shlomi's All-American Deli, watching from the United Kingdom. Let's go Otters indeed. Glad to have you here on the Otters Digital Network. Beautiful night for baseball in Avon. A little toasty as opposed to last night's 75 degrees first pitch. Jeffrey Baez going to try again on the 2-2. Really worked hard in this at-bat. And the ball is sent out towards center field. Chasing inwards a bit is White, and he'll bring it in for out number 2. Mcnamee is going to try to advance to third on the fly ball, and he will indeed. Good jump for Mcnamee. It doesn't officially count as a sacrifice fly, but Baez sure uses his at-bat for good, and the Otters have a man just 90 feet away from scoring as Elijah Mcnamee shares some pleasantries with Connor Owings over there at third.
It was a little bit scary at first because Mcnamee was kind of hesitating on deciding if he should go tag up or if he should stay, because it looks like he was expecting the ball to be carried a little bit farther to center field, and luckily he decided to tag up and is safely at third.
Well, and White broke towards the outfield wall at first, and then he turned and started to come inwards, and it kind of looked like potentially Baez could have even had that thing fall in front. J.R. Davis, the third baseman, makes his way to the plate now. I was incredibly impressed with J.R. Davis last night and his ability to foul off pitches left and right and keep himself alive in the count. See what he can do this evening as the third baseman is hitting in the cleanup hole. Mcnamee stands on third as J.R. Davis waits on an 0-1 pitch in the top of the first inning with 2 outs. The 0-1 to Davis. Just a hair inside for ball 1. Good as time as any to mention the ball and strike callers this evening. Brandon Spivak. Matt Beaver is going to man things on the left side of the infield. Jason Smith, our umpire, on the right side of the infield. So the same ones as last night. They all just move 90 degrees. J.R. Davis ready on the 1-1. It's driven down the right field line. Just foul. It looks like it'll actually end up in the seating area. The count falls to 1-2. An interesting ballpark here. The only way in and out of Mercy Health Stadium is on this road that comes right towards center field. So as you're sitting here watching a game, you get to watch everybody who's late to the ball game come right in.
Do you get to judge them too for being late at the basket?
I guess so. 1-2 stays high and evens the count up at 2 balls, 2 strikes. I see Ryan O'Reilly and Bryce Studeville manning the radar gun behind home plate up there in the top of second row here behind home plate at Mercy Health Stadium. Bryce Studeville had a tough outing last night, gave up 4 runs on 9 hits in his just under 5 innings of work, but the Otters managed to get him a win. Ball is fouled into the dirt and then right back behind home plate, but they're actually going to call it a fair ball. It looked like it fouled into the catcher's face mask and then back into fair territory. They call it fair. They throw it down to first for out number 3, and the Otters are going to strand a man at third here in the first. We've played through 1/2 inning. Still scoreless here from Mercy Health Stadium in Avon, Ohio.
Getting ready and keeping fit for baseball season is hard work. That's why you'll find Evan at Be Fit by Bob's. Getting fit, healthy, and well. Be like Evan. Try a free 3-day pass at Be Fit by Bob's.
To the bottom of the first inning we go. Evansville led off the game with a double, but could not bring Elijah Mcnamee home afterwards. They strand him at third, and we head to the bottom of the first. Still scoreless here from Avon, Ohio. This evening, the pitcher on the mound is Brett Adcock. The former Michigan Wolverine will look to pick up win number 5. It's the kid on the mound, Justin Felix, behind the plate. The pitcher-catcher battery is also sponsored by the Answer Auto Repair East. Find all your battery needs at the Answer Auto Repair East, located at 2319 North Green River Road, or give them a call at 812-475-9000. First pitch home from Brett Adcock is driven down the right field line, foul for a very long strike number 1.
And here's the hoping Adcock can find his game again. He had a rough start against the Tri-City Valley Cats. He had a rough start on Friday night against them, so hopefully he can bounce back, get back on track, as Evansville is also trying to do so against these Western Division opponents.
Another ball put to the right side, through for a base hit, and Connor Owings, for the second straight night, is going to start off with a single to right field. Adcock's really had 2 more tough starts. Of course, like the one you're mentioning, a 7-run outing against Tri-City. Before that, he had a 4-run outing against Sussex County. He went 7 full innings, but the Otters didn't quite give him enough run support as they fell in the game 5-3. But when you bounce back to the game against Washington, the game that Evansville won against Washington, he gave up just 1 run in 5 2/3 innings. And then prior to that was his 14 strikeout masterpiece, where the Otters lost to Florence because they could not put up a single run of offense, and Adcock's 14 strikeout day went up for nothing. Adcock and Felix as a battery have a 4-3 record. They've pitched just under 50 innings together, and they've given up 18 runs on 55 hits. They've combined for 41 strikeouts as well. They have a battery ERA of 2.78. Back-to-back pitches to Jackson Valera are both up high for balls 1 and 2. Adcock remains the only lefty in the Otters' whole pitching staff. A 2-0 curveball catches the outside edge, strike 1. And if Adcock can get the curveball working, Adcock is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Those games that he wins are the ones that the curveball is working the most efficiently.
I agree. And, those curveballs like the one we just saw against Valera, it really dipped on him as there's a hit out to second base. And
snagged by Andy Armstrong,
yes,
who kind of climbed the ladder there. That's a tough play to make with this amount of wind as well. And it excites you to have this kind of defense playing like that. It's a line out to Andy Armstrong at second for out number 1.
And going back to that curveball, like that first pitch showed, it dipped a lot. So if he can get the batters to get in front of that right before it drops, that will work really well for Adcock. And as you were pulling up his stats, he has a lot of longevity. He is very reliable. Even in those games where he struggles, like against Tri-City and the game before that, he still got you 5 2/3 innings and then 7 innings, even though he was struggling. So having that reliability from your starting pitcher really helps your bullpen arms.
Kimuel Thomas Rivera making his second straight appearance in the 3-hole against Evansville. He got a hit to start off his game last night and then went 0 for 4 in the rest of the game. Hefty swinging strike 1, and that's what you're talking about right there. Adcock drops that pitch on the outside edge, and there went Thomas Rivera just chasing after it. Wind continues to stay mighty out towards center field as a 1-1 comes home. Swung on and missed yet again, and yet again it's the curveball that Adcock drops right in front of Thomas Rivera.
We feeling a fastball up and in to get him to kind of react and swing to it for a strikeout?
Would be nice to see. Adcock will instead send a fastball on the inside, maybe belt high, and I thought he was going to get a called strike, but Brandon Spivak's strike zone a little bit not as spacious as we get started here.
You and me both, man. Totally thought I was expecting a punch out there.
But Adcock will have to prove it yet again, this time on a 2-2 pitch. And it bounces in on the outside edge. It's going to get away from Felix. And Connor Owings is going to get to second on what I believe is going to be ruled as a wild pitch. So that takes the count to full with a runner on second now and just 1 out. Takes away the double play opportunity. And that's something that the Otters have not done as much of recently, but in those closing stages of the first half of the season was their bread and butter. I mean, George Khalil and Andy Armstrong combined for, it felt like, a whole ton of them.
I believe, did they lead the league at one point as there's a walk? Did they lead the league at one point, especially in the first half of the season for double plays?
Yeah, at the break, the Otters did lead the league in double plays, and that was helped because there was a 3-game stretch where in the 3 games combined, they had 10 double plays. In fact, I believe that was the 3-game series at Schaumburg right there before the All-Star break that they had 10 total double plays, including a 4 double play game, which tied a franchise high.
Man, would it be nice to get one right here.
Yeah, it does set up the double play yet again. Runners at first and second, just 1 out. Adcock, much like Studeville last night, having himself a tough first inning. The pitch is half swung at, and Brandon Spivak immediately says, yes, he did go around for a swinging strike 1.
You mentioned it. That curveball is really working for him right now.
Coco Figurito, the designated hitter this evening, batting in the 4-hole and has a huge RBI chance. This is your job as a 4-hole hitter. Have men on base, bring them around. 1 out, runners at first and second. The 0-1 is swung on and missed, a hefty swinging strike 2. And Figurito is going to have to get a little bit defensive now at the plate. Adcock starting to get into a little bit of a good rhythm up there on the bump. Bright red glove for Brett Adcock as the 0-2 comes home. Just misses to the outside edge, and I agree, Ryan O'Reilly. He puts his hands behind his head back there behind home plate and immediately asks Bryce Studeville where he thought that one missed. Very close pitch, and that's back-to-back batters that I think Adcock thought he had the payoff pitch done with and did not end up getting it called. He'll try again on the 1-2, goes to the same exact place, and it is still a ball. Counts even up at 2-2. Got to be careful, though, with the arguing of balls and strikes. We saw Andy McCauley tossed from last night's game in the bottom of the 9th inning for that exact reason. Counts even at 2 balls, 2 strikes. Brett Adcock still searching for a very important second out here. Big curveball works its way high and away, and the count is full yet again.
Home plate umpire really setting the tone for how this game will be pitched, especially for both pitchers here early in the game, squeezing them basically as much as you can, not giving any outside or inside pitches.
So we'll try again now on the 3-2 payoff pitch with runners at first and second and 1 out here in the bottom of the first inning. The 3-2 comes home, a double steal, the throw over to third, and it goes all the way over J.R. Davis's head into left field. A run is going to score on the errant throw by Justin Felix, and it is a strike him out, did not throw him out, as the ball goes sailing into left field, and a run's going to score on a Justin Felix error. The bright side is the Otters got an out there with the strikeout, which appears to be a strikeout looking, but both runners advance 2 bases on the error by Justin Felix. Imagine they'll probably give the first one in as a stolen base because that's what they attempted, and then probably the second base they got will each be erred. So it sets up a runner on third and 2-out situation here in the bottom of the first inning. Keenan Irizarry headed to the plate. Evansville not in the scenario that they wanted to be. Already a run back here.
And with Irizarry, he went 2 for 3 yesterday with 2 walks and a run scored. So you know he's already a battler at the plate. So hopefully Adcock can get to him early, as there's a fouled ball for an 0-2 count. If he can strike out Irizarry here, limit the damage, that will boost his confidence heading into the later parts of the game.
Well, it would be another successful inning in my eyes if, with the 2 men on and 1 out. To only give up 1 run is not that bad for the Otters. It's the same thing that happened to Bryce Studeville last night. Really got attacked early and only gave up 1 run in the first, and the Otters gave him a lead in the second. We'll take a look at an 0-2 pitch coming home to Irizarry right down Main Street. Called strike 3 ends the first inning, but not before a Justin Felix error allows a run to score for Lake Erie. We head to the second inning. Evansville trails 1-0 here in this one from Avon, Ohio. Evansville Otters baseball here on the Otters Digital Network is presented by Working Distributors Evansville. Our thanks to Working Distributors for being great partners with the Otters. And Evansville's got some work to do now. Back by 1 run after a Justin Felix error allowed the Crushers to come around and score. You know, you and I had a quick chat in the break about it and just kind of almost scratching the heads wondering why even attempt to throw like that. Obviously, you had to throw around the man because it was a right-handed hitter at the plate, and it looked like both runners had a good jump. A costly error, at least right now. Let's hope the Otters don't have that one come back to bite them.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And if I remember correctly, the pitch was kind of low, so you had to struggle to pop back up. And as you mentioned, you had to throw around the batter. So at that point, that's when you got to make the decision. You know, the runner, like you said, had a great jump coming from second to third. So at that point, you just got to decide if you want to hold it or make the costly decision like Felix did and just overthrew it.
Steven Sensley, Miles Gordon, and Justin Felix are due up in the half inning. One of the things that surprised me about Felix, though, is every time he has an error like that, he usually is always coming up to bat in the next half inning, and he usually helps with some sort of recovery afterwards. So he's going to get a chance to do just that as Steven Sensley's count goes out to 2-0 with a pitch outside.
And hopefully Sensley and Gordon get on in front of him, so if Felix does make up for his costly error, it'll maximize the damage heading here into the bottom of the second.
A 2-0 to Sensley. He launches a ball out towards right field. Cheely's going to run back towards the wall. At the wall, and it bounces off. There goes Sensley to second, and it's another inning that the Otters lead off with a stand-up double off the wall out there in right center field.
The wind doing wonders again for the Evansville Otters batters as it looked like the right fielder again, Cheely, just kind of lost it. He was kind of looking up towards the scoreboard. At one point, it looked like that ball was out of here. So, again, that wind kind of playing tricks with the right fielder so far here in the first 2 innings of this game, and Sensley got an easy double as it carried him off the wall.
Yeah, I saw that glance up towards the scoreboard, and I thought for sure, okay, that ball's gone. And then suddenly it hit the wall very hard and went rolling quite a bit. So the leadoff man for the last few nights, Miles Gordon, now at the plate. He's going to try to bunt. It's successful. He is out on his way to first, but he moves Steven Sensley to third with just 1 out. And that's very uplifting for me because obviously Miles Gordon is a man who can hit in the leadoff spot all the time. That's where he usually is in this lineup. But they are okay with him not swinging the bat there. And more importantly, he's okay not swinging the bat there and, putting his his line scorer on the line to help the team out in this scenario.
And that's an example of a true team player. This was a great example of small ball just advancing the runner, especially now with Justin Felix coming up to maybe make up for that costly error in the first inning. So a great play by Miles Gordon getting that sac put down perfectly on the first base foul line.
Felix launches a ball towards mid-deep left field. Running in will be Jake Gitter, and he'll bring it in for out number 2. That's disappointing. Had that got a little bit more oomph out to left field, it could have brought Steven Sensley in, and we could have a tie ball game.
If you take a look at the flag right now in dead center field, if you're watching with us on Flow Sports, the flag is now pointing more towards right field. So it looks like maybe hitting it to right field is the place to go, because it looks like the ball kind of just died in the air when it headed to left field.
So that's going to bring up the Australian shortstop George Khalil with 2 outs and a runner on third. His first time up last night, he had an RBI single that at that point helped the Otters get themselves a bit of a lead. 2 outs, runner on third, first pitch to Khalil. Oh, beautiful curveball that just fell into the top half of the zone for a called strike 1. And George really needed a big night last night. Even though he just got the 1 RBI base hit, he needed something to help him out after the 5 strikeout performance the game prior.
And it's honestly all about getting that bat right, getting that timing right. As you mentioned, yeah, it was a 1 for 3, but he got that RBI single that helped out the team. And that's really got to boost your confidence heading into the mid-game of this series against a tough Lake Erie game, knowing that, hey, I had a rough game before with those 5 strikeouts. Getting on the board and helping my team here in the first game can really get my timing right and get this show on the road.
0-2 to Khalil, and he barely puts it right back up the middle towards Kynes. He'll throw to first, and the Otters once again strand a man at third after the leadoff double, and we head to the bottom half of the second. Evansville trails 1-0 here in Avon. To the bottom of the second inning we go, and Evansville still trailing by a run after another opportunity with a man on third. They could not bring him home, and man, that's got to make things feel a little tough in the dugout. Back-to-back innings where you leave a man 90 feet away. And Austin White zooms one to the right side. Sensley's going to race him to first. Out is the call at first as Steven Sensley went diving, or sliding, I guess, foot first to get that first out. Good to see Sensley laying down the body to help grab out number 1.
Great athletic movement there by Sensley to get that out. That's exactly what Adcock needs, a 2-pitch out to get the bottom of the second rolling. And hopefully Adcock could have a quick Zane Clodfelter half inning, excuse me. Don't want to get that wrong. Don't want to make Zane upset. So hopefully we can get that Zane Clodfelter half inning. Adcock and the defense can go back into the dugout, and maybe that'll give some momentum to the offense, because as you mentioned, that must be, absolutely terrible for the momentum by leaving those runners on third base.
Andy Armstrong goes running to his right side, lays out for out number 2. And I apologize for not sounding more excited about that. He's done this so many times that's one of his more mild plays out there at second base, and not even a smile from him as they zoom in here on the camera. He is all business out there at second base.
I sometimes wish I could do the stuff that all these athletes can do, because like you said, he's so nonchalant about it. Like, that was an amazing play, and like you said, we're not excited because he does that on a nightly basis. So
we do want to walk you around the defensive alignment for the Otters. Baez, Gordon, Mcnamee, left to right across the outfield. J.R. Davis at third, Khalil at short, Armstrong at second, Steven Sensley is at first, and it's Justin Felix behind the plate this evening. The other one behind the plate is Brian De La Rosa, who's at the plate right now. 146 batting average, his first opportunity of the evening. And Adcock throws 2 straight balls low and in the dirt. He has thrown a combined 5 pitches now in this second inning after a lengthy first inning for him. 2-0, big curveball, called strike on the outside corner. He has hit that location, I think, 4 times tonight, and that's the first time it's been a called strike.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was shocked to see the umpire give the strike call, because it looked like it just painted that outside corner like you mentioned, and Adcock got the break there.
A 2-1, low and near the dirt, stays a little bit too low for Spivak's liking, and it's a 3-1 opportunity now for De La Rosa. 2-out walks have plagued the Otters all season long. See what Adcock can do here to try to avoid just that. A 3-1 coming home. Stays low, ball 4, and Brian De La Rosa will head to first with a 2-out walk. Adcock threw more pitches in that at-bat than he did in the prior 2 to kick off this second inning. So that'll bring up the 9-hole hitter, Jake Gitter, who in last night's game for the Otters, or for Lake Erie, came in that second inning in relief of Sean Cheely after he was ejected. First at bat, a 2-run single that for a while looked like it could have given Lake Erie the win. Ball gets away from Felix for a second, but he's able to get to it in time and not let De La Rosa advance towards second. But Adcock missing the zone quite a few times now. Brett Adcock ready on the 1-0. Fires home. It's on the inside edge, and it's a swinging strike 1 that evens our count up. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And that was a beautiful curveball again. And as we've seen through these 2 innings so far, Adcock does have that curveball working. And as I mentioned before, the batter was right in front of it before he even got to the plate. So if he can keep that curveball working and following it up with a fastball as he just did, it's going to be a successful night for Adcock.
I was going to say, I think we see a slider there that works towards the outside edge of the plate, and that's a nice pitch from Brett Adcock. Ran it away from the lefty in this lefty-lefty battle. 1-2, exact same pitch. Tried to get him to chase out there. I like that decision. Go right back at it with a little further outside and see if he'll run after. But it evens the count up at 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Deuces are wild, Zane. And this is one where, Adcock's a guy with 6 years of minor league experience. This is where you've got to prove it right here. In the inning with a 2-2. And he misses the zone just a hair under the knees on the inside edge. And it will be another full count, this one for Jake Gitter. This could be a big pitch in the grand scheme of this game if this inning goes on any longer.
And Adcock's got to keep his temper down. He's starting to get that frustrated body language there.
It's on the low inside corner. I see the home plate umpire point out to Matt Beaver, who must have said, yes, he did go around on the check swing. And it's a strikeout swinging to end the second inning. Brett Adcock walks a man with 2 outs, but it does not come back to haunt him. We've played through 2. Lake Erie leads by 1 due to the error. We've played through 2 innings, and Lake Erie's holding on to a 1-0 advantage, courtesy of an error from Justin Felix. As we head to the 3rd inning, Evansville's going to have the 9-1-2 hitters of Armstrong, Mcnamee, and Bierman due up. And, you know, as Bill McCune says so often here on the Otters Digital Network, a 1-run advantage is nothing, because to win a game, you have to score at least once. So Evansville shouldn't have to be too worried right now.
And I fully agree with Bill. As you know, we missed him last week, and he'll be back with you this weekend against Gateway. But yeah, it'd be one heck of a way to start with Armstrong up to bat now, and hopefully we can keep the line moving with Mcnamee and Bierman following Armstrong here.
Gunnar Kynes ready on the bump as he fires home the first pitch to Andy Armstrong, high for ball 1. Let's walk you around the Lake Erie defensive alignment for this evening. It's Gitter in left, White in center, and Sheely out in right. Across the infield, Owings playing third, Irizarry at short, Thomas Rivera at second, Valera's at first, and De La Rosa mans things behind the plate. Another ball is on the inside edge for Armstrong, and he's ahead 2-0 in the count. The Crushers wearing those purple tops, white bottoms with the white numbers on the backs of them. Evansville in their primary blue jerseys, white script Otters on front, white numbers on back. Generous strike call there as a curveball from Kynes landed a bit inside on Armstrong. But I guess Armstrong must have been okay with it. Didn't even turn to look at the home plate umpire, so he'll keep his 2-1 advantage. Kynes fires home. It's about elbow high and foul back over the netting for strike 2. Count evens up at 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And with that first strike call against Armstrong there, I believe the second pitch, their second ball was kind of in the same position. So just painting that inside edge. And yeah, I'm honestly shocked that Armstrong didn't at least just look back to the home plate umpire just to get some clarification on the strike zone there.
A 2-2 on the high inside edge, and Armstrong pushes it out towards the right field corner. And underneath it to make the catch is Cheely for out number 1. And, of course, just like you mentioned a few moments ago, Otters are back in town this weekend. 3 games set against the Gateway Grizzlies. 6:35 first pitches on Friday and Saturday. Now, remember, 12:35 first pitch on Sunday. The Otters are returning to that early Sunday game, so make sure you mark that on the calendar and don't show up at 5:30 or 5:05, as the game might be over by then, or at least I hope the game would be over by then.
I know Zane doesn't like the early starts, but it's kind of refreshing here in the dog days of summer on Sunday as well. So, got to enjoy those afternoon games when you have them.
Yeah, and on Sunday you can bring the dog out to the ballpark, just like every Sunday at Bosse Field. And there's $2 hot dogs available all around the ballpark. A 1-0, headed home to Elijah Mcnamee. It's skied high in the infield. Chasing over towards it is Rivera, and he'll be the one that brings it in for out number 2. Very quick first 2 outs in the top of the third.
Yeah, the Otters batters aren't making Kynes uncomfortable there, and obviously kind of getting easy outs for the defense, especially after those first 2 innings where the leadoff batter got a double out to right field. So let's see if Bierman can start some 2-out magic. But yeah, Kynes hasn't really been uncomfortable so far in the first 2 2/3 innings so far.
Zach Bierman now at the plate. The 2-hole hitter had a fly out with a strange play, lost the bat and his at-bat all at once. So now he'll get a real opportunity with a 0-1 count. 2 outs, bases empty here in the top of the third. The 0-1 to the DH, Zach Bierman. Outside, 4-1, count evens up. And I'll make sure I mention it. The Crushers are wearing bright white hats. I mean, they are full white hats with a purple bill. That's a bold uniform option.
Kind of looks nice. They're somehow making it work for some reason. I wouldn't expect that.
It's got the Grape Crusher logo on the front of it, right next to the purple bill, and then the rest of it is full white. So kind of look like little beacons from the home plate or the home plate camera there. 1-2 to Zach Bierman, way outside ball 2, easy for him to lay off. That's obviously been one of my favorite things about getting to see every team in the league this year, is you get to see a couple different uniform options from every single team and kind of pick and choose which ones you like the best. A 2-2 to Zach Bierman, sent back into the netting behind home plate. The count will remain at 2-2. I'd have to say my top 2 caps in this league have to be between the squirrel hat at Schaumburg or the eagle hat at Trois-Rivières. Both of those are black options with the logo on top with the colored bills. I really like both of them.
I don't think I've seen the squirrel hat from Schaumburg yet. I'm going to have to do some research in between the innings.
Well, we'll get it for you. Don't worry about that.
Because that is very interesting.
I'll see what I can find. We'll get it in the half inning. We'll get his reaction once we come back. Another foul ball from Bierman. Keeps his count at 2-2 strikes here in the top of the third inning. Gunnar Kynes struggling at this at-bat. Way inside, almost catches Bierman in the elbows, and his count will head to full. It's got to be my favorite thing about Zach Bierman. He really makes a pitcher work hard for the out.
And I was just about to mention that this has been an absolute battle. It's his 8th pitch of the at-bat so far. And this is the uncomfortableness that I was talking about. You got to get Kynes to work, get into those innings, throwing a lot of pitches and getting fatigued. So this is great work by Bierman so far.
Ball zoomed down the right field line, through for extra bases. It's going to end up in the Otters bullpen. The throw towards second will be late, and Zach Bierman has himself a stand-up double here with 2 outs. Otters have 3 hits. They are all doubles in this game, 1 in each inning.
Bierman once again showing that battle hardness in the batter's box there as he ripped that ball down the first base foul line into the Otters bullpen. Like you mentioned, that is a great piece of hitting from Zach Bierman, hustling to get to second base there on that hit.
Well, and it didn't even look like that aggressive of a swing. It was him using the power he has in his arms to will that one down the first base line, and Rivera just couldn't quite get to it in time, and Evansville's got an opportunity now with Jeffrey Baez at the plate.
This would be a perfect time for Baez to uncork that power to right field right now.
First pitch home. Baez will leave it alone for ball 1. That's a hard ball to lay off for Jeffrey Baez, but it is indeed too high for ball one. So the Otters trying to make anything work offensively, string any two hits together. They've got an opportunity with 2 outs and a runner at second. Baez takes a pitch way inside, and usually when he flinches towards the inside, they're called strikes because he's hugging the plate so much. This time he is a little bit further back than usual at home plate there.
And we've mentioned this in our chats before multiple games about how the Otters really need to string back-to-back hits to get things going. And that's with any baseball team and any baseball game. But that definitely plagues the Otters so far, not getting those back-to-back hits to get those runners home from second or third.
Another high pitch, and it's a check swing for Jeffrey Baez. They check down with first base umpire Jason Smith, who says no, he did not. And Jeffrey Baez is ahead in the count 3-0. Would not be surprised if the head man, Andy McCauley, has given Jeffrey Baez a bit of a green light here. The 3-0. It is skied high inside the infield. Running in is Rivera. He'll bring it in for out number 3 on the mounds. We've played through 3. Evansville has a double in each inning, but they have not been able to make anything work as they still trail. 1-0 in this one. Here from Avon, bottom of the third, coming at you next.
Cheer up, Evan. This rain will be out soon. You should download the 14 First Alert app and see for yourself. You can see what's coming up to 7 days in advance, or you can break it down hour by hour. Check out live radar so you can see what's happening in real time. And you can watch 14 News live directly from the app. See, there's nothing to worry about.
Stay in the game with the 14 First Alert app.
Welcome to a place that feels like home. A place that cares about all of you. Built to help you grow in more ways than you could possibly imagine. To make new friends, travel new paths, soar to new heights, and deepen your spiritual experience. Welcome to Oakland City University.
Brett Adcock and the Otters return to the field. Still behind in this one, 1-0. And Adcock is going to have to face the 1-2-3 hitters of Owings Valera and Thomas Rivera. First pitch stays low and outside for ball one against Connor Owings. First at bat for him, he screamed a ball down the right side. Ended up stealing second before scoring on the error by Felix. One ball, one strike here in the bottom of the third inning. Brett Adcock trying to pick up where he left off. It was a strong second inning for him outside of the one walk. He really controlled things well.
And it was really nice. Again, he was going back to that curveball, and as you mentioned, he was getting that slider against the lefties here, as that pitch is about waist high, called for a ball. But he was getting that slider to work against those lefty batters as well that were kind of starting inside and completely moving across the plate and hitting that edge of the strike zone. But yeah, he was fully in control except that walk, so it'll be nice to see what he can do here in this bottom of the third inning.
Another foul ball evens the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Brett Adcock trying to start off this bottom of the third with a positive at-bat against a rock-solid hitter in Connor Owings. Ready to go on the 2-2, and the kid fires home. Fouled back into the netting, and living to see another pitch is Connor Owings.
Owings getting used to that curveball there. It didn't have enough drop this time from Adcock, but getting on top of that curveball will help the Lake Erie Crushers here. So maybe if Adcock can maybe blow a fastball by him or get that slider to work again heading outside.
A 2-2. Catches the inside edge. Owings played with Zach Bierman while they were both at Coastal Carolina. He was then drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the 34th round of that 2016 draft. From there, he played a couple of years in High A and Low A before hitting the independent leagues for the last 3 years. And Owings staying alive. 3-2 the count. So far this year, Owings, in his third year in the Frontier League after 2 years with Gateway, started the year in the Atlantic League with Gastonia before he ended up with this Lake Erie team in the mid-stages of the year. 3-2, coming home. Swinging, strike three. And this one, I won't forget this time, is surely a German-American Bank strikeout. 4 of them on the day for Brett Adcock. And it was good to see that one not be the curveball. So he can now he's shown that he can punch guys out with both the curveball and the slider.
And this is the time now that you're starting to get through the second, seeing the lineup for the second time in a row now, that you get to implement those different pitches in your arsenal. So you're right. It was very good to see Adcock getting a strikeout on that slider that dipped down into the zone and made Owings chase.
First pitch home is scooped up into center field. Gordon's going to step back maybe a half step, and it ends up right where he originated. And as my good friend Bill McEwen always says, man, the guy that invented baseball really knew where to put those 9 guys on the field. Very easy out for Gordon, and also good to see Adcock throw a pitch that was worthy of being swung at. It kind of looked like the 7-iron got pulled out there for Valera, really digging into the dirt for that one.
Yeah, again, as we both mentioned, the arsenal is really starting to pick up here and getting those different pitchers, trying to get the batters to see different stuff. And obviously, the pitchers are starting to fool the batters. So hopefully this will continue for Adcock and get him farther into this game. And as the batters will hopefully continue to get fooled by those pitches.
A 1-0 is a called strike one, evens the count up at a ball and a strike. Kimuel Thomas Rivera at the plate now with 2 outs and nobody on. Really like the Brett Adcock we've started to see here in these last couple innings. 1-1 is swung on and missed for strike 2, and Adcock could end the inning on this pitch. So we're ready to go with 1 ball, 2 strikes to Kimuel Thomas Rivera, and he's actually going to call time and step out for a second. Otters and Crushers face one more time this season. That'll be tomorrow night, same time, same place. 6:05 first pitch right here on the Otters Digital Network. And it is a foul ball swinging strike 3 into the glove of Felix that ends the inning. 2 German-American Bank strikeouts help highlight the third. We head to the 4th. Evansville still trails by 1 here on the Otters Digital Network. Glad you're joining us for Wednesday Night Baseball.
Listen up, Evansville Otter fans. Right now, about 100,000 people nationwide are waiting for a life-saving transplant. That's enough people to fill Bossy
Evansville Otters baseball on the Otters Digital Network is presented by Budweiser, the king of beers. And at this point, I want to reintroduce Austin Hernandez here onto the broadcast. I'm Matthew Will, joining you for another edition of Otters baseball, and I hand the torch over to Austin, who will handle the play-by-play duties here for the next couple innings.
And before we start the top of the fourth, I just want to extend my thanks to you again for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to announce for the first time. I really do appreciate it, and I hope I'm doing a good job so far.
Well, I hope we get to have you back at some point on the year. You're doing a fine job, and I'm sure the Evansville faithful out there are glad to hear another new voice here on the Otters Digital Network.
I appreciate it. As J.R. Davis is up to bat, first three batters for the Evansville Otters is J.R. Davis, Steven Sensley, and Miles Gordon, as the first pitch to J.R. Davis is glided in there for a strike. So far, J.R. Davis tonight has struck out. It was a dropped third strike thrown out at first. So far in the first inning, the second pitch is thrown inside for ball number 1. And as Matthew has mentioned multiple times so far, Evansville has only had 3 hits so far, all of them on doubles, and each time they were stranded. Really need to get these hits back to back so that Evansville can finally get something, as they are still down 1-0 so far.
J.R. Davis really trying to stay patient in the zone right now.
Agree, as that 1-1 pitch is floated in there for strike 2 call. Obviously not J.R. Davis's pitch that he's sitting on, so we'll see what Kynes will throw into Davis here as the 1-2 pitch is on its way inside for ball number 2. And these are the at-bats that we're talking about most of the time, is just getting Kynes to work. And even if, it ends in a strikeout, at least it was a competitive at-bat, get Kynes further into the pitch count and maybe get him out of this game as fast as possible. As that fifth pitch is hit towards the first baseman, and he will easily step on the bag for out number 1, Valera, with that play.
That's a hard hit ball from Davis, but he just couldn't quite put the necessary contact on it to get himself a base hit.
As Steven Sensley steps up to the plate, he started off the second inning with a double and advanced to third on the sacrifice bunt from Gordon, who is on deck. Really need these middle lineup guys to start producing, as yesterday, I noticed the middle lineups 2 through 5 only went 2 for 14 with those 2 hits coming from Zach Bierman. So it's nice to see that production coming from Sensley here, even though he did not get home in the second inning, as the first pitch is fouled off to the left side.
Yeah, Steven Sensley has impressed me a whole ton in the last month or so. He's gotten a lot more patient at the plate, really making pitchers work for his outs, and that's really impressive to see out of a power hitter.
The 0-1 pitch is in the dirt, but Sensley bites, and it is now an 0-2 count. And with the wind really just ripping to right field right now, and Steven Sensley being a left-handed batter, it would be really nice if Sensley just got a hold of one and just sent it to right field into that wind. The 0-2 pitch is on its way from Kynes. Outside, it was a good frame job from De La Rosa, but was not given to him, so that'll make the count 1-2.
And it seemed like all year so far, if you make the frame job too obvious, even if the original pitch was in the zone, these home plate umpires are not really accepting the frame jobs.
And one thing I was really impressed with as the 1-2 pitch is coming in, and that is down the middle for a strike 3 call. Steven Sensley goes down looking for out number 2 for Kynes. One thing I was really impressed with when I started being an intern for the Otters was Dakota Phillips, honestly, for me. His frame jobs were one of the best that I've seen in a while. And you mentioned that if those frame jobs are too obvious, you're not going to get those calls. But Phillips was just doing it just right, that he was getting those outside calls for his pitchers.
He made it look like it was the pitch pulling his glove away, not him pulling a pitch back in, which is what made it so devious.
The first pitch from Kynes to Gordon falls in there for a strike. Gordon with a sac bunt back in the second inning to move Sensley from second to third. And as by the score of 1-0 for Lake Erie, Sensley did not get home. But like as you mentioned back in the second, it was a really good play from Gordon on the first pitch to get that sac bunt down.
Yeah, and it was another one that just proved that he's a selfless guy, is okay giving up the at-bat, and he's a contact hitter that could have brought him in, but he gave that up for the better chance.
As the second pitch guides in there for a second strike, the count is 0-2. Here comes the pitch from Kynes. Outside in the righty batter box, and now the count is 1-2.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'd expect out of Gunnar Kynes. He chased on the last pitch, or you got a good called strike on the outside last pitch. Why not go a little further out and see if Miles Gordon will run out there, but he did not.
The 1-2. Down in the dirt for ball number 2. Trying to get that curveball to work, trying to get Gordon to chase again after getting up in the count 0-2. Really trying to make Gordon just go for anything at this point, but great patience from Gordon here with 2 outs. And the 2-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3 for Miles Gordon. Great pitch from Kynes there. And that will end the top of the 4th. Evansville goes down 1-3. And we will be back on the Otters Digital Network for the bottom of the 4th. Thank you for joining us.
If you want to stay up to date with everything Evansville Otters, you can do that by following the Otters on Twitter at Eville Otters, on Instagram at Evansville Otters, or you can like the Evansville Otters on Facebook. You do all those, you will never miss a thing that comes out of the Evansville Otters, whether it's a score update, a pregame story, a postgame story, a roster move. It's all right there. Support the Otters there on social media. Turn it back over to Austin for the bottom of the 4th inning.
As Coco Figurito comes up to bat for the Lake Erie Crushers. He struck out the last time, but that was on the error from Justin Felix that got Owings home after a stolen base from third and that wild throw over the third baseman brought Owings home. So let's see what Figurito can do here as the first pitch comes in from Adcock and is way outside for ball number 1.
Yeah, that one just plain got away for him. He's got to be a little bit more aggressive with his first pitches. A lot of them have been balls in this game.
First pitch strikes are very necessary in any baseball game, but especially tonight, as we've seen Lake Erie make you pay on getting behind in those counts, as the second pitch is thrown in there for a strike, which evens up the count at 1. 1-1 pitch, check swing from Figurito. They check down to the first base umpire. He says he doesn't go, so it'll be a 2-1 count for Figurito. Adcock so far with 48 pitches, and besides that first inning, he's kind of worked with great pace. Besides that walk in the second inning.
Yeah, in his first inning he had 21 pitches, and since then he's sitting at 27 in the last 3 innings. So you got to be proud of that.
As the pitch is down in the dirt, they'll make it a 3-1 count for Figurito. Let's see what Adcock comes back with here. Will he throw a curveball or Would it just be a fastball just to try and attack the...
Yeah, probably either that fastball or that slider in the zone.
3-1 pitch. Thrown in there at the bottom of the zone is a called strike 2. Figurito threw his bat backwards thinking it was a ball 4. And he looks back at the home plate umpire just for a little bit as he gathers his bat and steps back into the batter box.
Yeah, that's an aggressive pitch. Got him right there at the knees with the slider to the inside edge, and Adcock's got himself a full count.
And the pitch outside and in the batter's box as Figurito kind of slams his guard down as he takes first base with a walk. That was kind of interesting. I think he was probably still frustrated with that strike 2 call. But he gets the walk anyway.
If anything, you should be happy. He got to work Brett Adcock's pitch count up one more pitch. Adcock now over the 50-pitch mark as we sit here in the bottom of the 4th inning.
Irizarry up to bat now. Struck out looking in the 1st inning that ended the threat for Lake Erie as they got that first run on the error from Justin Felix in the 1st inning as the first pitch goes outside for ball 1, and Adcock really struggling to find the strike zone here in the 4th inning.
This is a ballpark that plays so much different than everywhere else. It's all turf, but it's such hard-packed turf that if you hit a ball hard, it bounces very high on this surface. We saw the first time the Otters played here, I think 8 or 9 ground rule doubles in that series. Just about everything that goes out towards the warning track is going to hop over the fence. So you just have to kind of take that into consideration as well with this wind.
As the second pitch glides in there for a strike call, 1-1 in the count. Adcock ready, throws over to first. Figurito back in there safely. Last thing we need here is a stolen base and possibly any more threats to the Evansville Otters here. As they're keeping Lake Erie close, but their offense has just really struggled so far through the first 3.5 so far. It's the 1-1 pitch, glides in there for a strike 2 call on the outside corner. It was a great pitch. Irizarry didn't bite at it, and it was just a perfectly placed pitch for Adcock.
Yeah, it was a nice curveball that looked like it was going to keep rising out of the zone, and then at the last second it fell into that high corner. Those are the pitches Adcock has to really make his bread and butter to get himself a win.
As he checks over at first again, Figurito back in there safely.
And there's not really intent to throw a guy off on any of these. It's just to keep him close. He's not really zooming the throw over there.
And as on the Flow Sports broadcast, now he takes another step, but Figurito was really close to the bag as the pitch goes in for Adcock and is hit out to right field. Baez running for it. Looks like it goes off the wall. This will be an extra base opportunity as Figurito will stay at third. And is it a ground rule double?
Looks like it is indeed.
Just as you mentioned before, this batter, that hard hit ball, especially with this wind, hits that hard packed turf and it goes over the wall really easily for that ground rule double.
Yeah, I was surprised we didn't see one at all last night. And now we get one here in the 4th inning of this one. And now the pressure is really on Brett Adcock.
As we have Austin White up to bat. Last night, Austin White went 1 for 3. He scored a run, got walked and struck out, and tonight he grounded out to first base with that diving play from Sensley, sliding into the bag to get White really easily.
That was a tough play from Steven Sensley.
So the first pitch falls in there for a strike on that outside corner about belt high.
Everything's got to be in the infield now. You really don't want to give up a run with the out. You want to make sure at least one of these 2 first outs come with no runs scoring, whether that's a strikeout or a close fly ball.
The 0-1 pitch hits White in the head, it looked like, and it looks like he'll take his base. He's kind of shaking it off and laughing about it. It looks like that pitch just got away from Adcock, and luckily White looks like he's okay, getting checked on from the first base coach. He's given the thumbs up, so it looks like White is all good. But that's a very scary situation with that ball rising as the athletic trainers now go to check on White.
Yeah, and it's good to see him smile on his way down to first because that can be a really scary play as well. And I think now the trainer is being very insistent on, hey, I've got to do these checks whether you like it or not. But now it sets up a potential double play for the Otters. It opens the door for a couple more opportunities. Let's face this. If anything is hit out to right field, Jeffrey Baez has one of the best arms in the Frontier League, and he's going to make a play at home regardless. So keep an eye on that potential as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Otters try to maybe bring the infield in and go for this first out at home plate instead.
Chile hasn't stepped up to bat yet, but just from the view we've got from the home plate camera, looks like that's exactly what the Otters are doing, kind of playing closer inside for that possible double play, maybe at home and then to first.
Kind of feels like the bottom of the ninth inning last night. The bases were loaded with 1 out, and Evansville got a forced out at home plate to keep themselves alive, went on to win it in the 10th. One of the more exciting 9th and 10th innings the Otters have seen all year.
The first pitch to Chile is hit out to right field towards Baez. Baez is going back, jumps, and he makes the catch. What a play from Baez as he hits the cutoff Armstrong. A run will score, and the runner from second will advance to third as a great leaping catch from Baez out in right field. And honestly, with the way his momentum was going, there was really no play at the plate, but you'll take an out at this point. That leaves a double play situation there.
Yeah, that was impressive to see. Not only Baez getting up and making that catch, but also quickly getting the ball back in so that the man from second didn't try to round and grab an extra base. That could have been very dangerous if that ball got over the top of Baez's head.
Irizarry, the runner at third base. White staying at first base after his hit by pitch and that fly ball from Chile. As De La Rosa steps up to bat, he got a single last time up to the plate as that first pitch is in for a called ball.
Yeah, the best case scenario here is the Otters get a double play, get themselves out of the inning. Only giving up 1 run with the bases loaded and no outs is a win in my book.
And I apologize. He got to first in the second by a walk as that second pitch is in there for a strike call, which evens up the count at 1-1.
Yeah, it looked like right away De La Rosa was upset with himself that he didn't take a swing at that. His practice swing looked a little full of frustration.
This is the time now where you can really do damage to Adcock here and take that win to your advantage and get one in the gap that'll score at least one, and maybe the runner from first as that third pitch is in there in the dirt for a count of 2-1.
Good to see Justin Felix keeping that ball in front of him. That's something the Otters really struggled with in the first half of the season. But ever since Billy Easley sat down with his catchers and really dug into the issues with the pass balls, since that date, which was at the end of June, they've only had 2 pass balls as a catching staff.
Which is really nice to see because especially in the minor leagues here, those mistakes will definitely cost you and cost you often, as we saw in the first half, like you mentioned, those pass balls scoring runs. And especially now with first and third when only 1 out, a pass ball gets Lake Erie another run, moves the runner on first into scoring position, and can just lead to unnecessary damage that could have been prevented. As the pitch goes in there outside, Justin Felix checks the runner at first, and that'll be a full count. Once again, runners at first and third, 1 out here in the bottom of the 4th. Adcock with pitch number 63 on the way. Down in the dirt, and it will be another walk for De La Rosa.
Yeah, and Adcock just looks really frustrated with himself after that latest one. Just after the second and third were so strong for him, he's really struggled to find the zone consistently so far here in the 4th.
And after that 1-2-3 inning from the 1-2-3 hitters in the lineup for Lake Erie has decided to finally be patient at the plate, and it's working in their favor as the bases are loaded, as there's a meeting on the mound for Adcock. And if you're Lake Erie, this is a great position. There's only 1 out. You really got to avoid the double play. You really got to take this momentum, because if you do damage to Adcock here, you can officially run away with this game. And with how Evansville has been hitting and not getting those back-to-back hits that we talk about so often, this is where Lake Erie can almost win the game.
Yeah, and it especially after last night too, it feels like runs are going to be hard to come by in this series. So right now, it almost feels like Lake Erie's got themselves a lead that the Otters might not come back from. But the Otters have proven that once in a while they can string a lot of hits together and make you pay. So Lake Erie could win or lose the game right here in this couple of at-bats.
As the first pitch glides in there for a strike one call, as Gitter is up to bat, struck out in the second inning for his first plate appearance, looking to do some damage. And as Matthew mentioned, Gitter came in for Chile last night after Chile got ejected, as the second pitch is fouled away. So Gitter last night went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 strikeouts after coming in for the game for Chile, looking to do damage in the 9 spot with Owings on deck and Valera in the hole. Owings 1 for 2 so far with a single, my apologies. Trying to get something going here for Lake Erie as the 0-2 pitch is in the dirt. Makes the count 1-2.
Yeah, it feels like the first time all night Adcock's had an 0-2 advantage, so he really got to do whatever he wanted in that situation. And I like that he kind of threw a throwaway pitch to see if he could grab an out. And now he's going to get another opportunity on a 1-2.
I wouldn't be surprised with the lefty up to bat if we saw that slider that crosses the plate here. As that ball is hit to right field, looks like Baez is under it. The runner on third is tagging up. Looks like he will score the cutoff to Armstrong. And Lake Erie scores another run off a sacrifice fly to right field. Baez making the smart decision to cut it off to Armstrong. And it is now a 3-0 ball game as the runner from second moves on to third.
Well, sometimes it's that style of small ball that can get you wins, especially in this West Division where there are a lot of closely knit teams, and Lake Erie's doing that tonight. Most important part of that play is that the Otters got a second out.
Fully agree, and especially, you obviously, with any team, you don't want to give up on your runs, but if you get outs, the faster you get out of this, the better, as the first pitch glides in there for a strike call. It would be, honestly, with a bases loaded and 1 out, and with kind of the struggles of Adcock here in the bottom of the fourth, if you can get out of this inning with only giving up 2 runs, that really works in Evansville's favor, even though they're struggling at the plate. As the 0-1 pitch is lifted high into the air, looks like third baseman is calling it, and it is caught. Adcock survives with only 2 runs crossing the plate, leaving runners stranded on third and first. Lake Erie adds 2 more runs, making it a 3-0 ball game as we head to the top of the 5th here on the Otters Digital Network.
As we head to the top of the fifth inning, we, alongside the rest of the baseball community, want to take a couple moments to remember Vin Scully today, who passed away last night, the longtime voice of the Dodgers. Don't think there's anyone who is in baseball media who was not a little bit moved by what Vin Scully did for the game. And in an ode to his famous call and to give our own iteration, it's time for Otters baseball. And with that, I turn back over to Austin Hernandez for the top of the fifth inning. Otters have some work to do now.
Indeed, they do, Matthew, as Justin Felix, George Khalil, and Andy Armstrong are up to bat here in the fifth inning. And kind of going off of just what Matthew said when I heard the information last night and, the house that I'm living in, it was definitely a somber moment because Vin Scully was an inspiration to many, especially in the sports broadcasting world, and a lot of people, a lot of announcers, up and coming, and even now, professional broadcasters look up to him as motivation and follow to what he did with a lot of pride. And he was the standout baseball announcer that he changed the sport for the good. And it was a really somber moment last night hearing that information. As Justin Felix is up to bat, the first pitch is a called strike, and the second pitch is hammered down the left field line, but foul. So Felix, already down in the count 0-2, as he flied out to left field in the second inning, trying to get something going for Evansville. If you're just joining us on the Otters Digital Network, Lake Erie is up 3-0 against Evansville. First run for Lake Erie scored on a wild throw from Justin Felix that scored a run from third. And then in the bottom of the fourth, as the third pitch is in there for a call the ball, in the bottom of the fourth, we had a walk and then a ground rule double from Irizarry, hit by pitch by White, and then a couple of sac flies and walks that got two more runners home for Lake Erie, and that is where we stand so far in the top of the fifth. As Lake Erie is up 3-0, and that pitch is in there, and Felix takes a hard swing at it, and it strikes out for out number 1.
That's 3 straight batters that have sat down via strikeout by Gunnar Kynes.
Gunnar Kynes is cruising right now after those 3 doubles in the first 3 innings, but Evansville not capitalizing on them. Kynes is sitting at 59 pitches, and as you mentioned, he has gotten 3 straight strikeouts. George Khalil comes up to bat. He grounded out back to the pitcher in the second inning as that first pitch is in there for swinging strike 1. Khalil really trying to get something going here. Yesterday he went 1 for 3 for an RBI and a walk, but honestly just trying to get anything going for Evansville at this point. Second pitch is high and outside for a ball number 1. It really helps to know that the Otters are trying to stay patient with Kynes, even though, like we both mentioned, 3 strikeouts in a row as George Khalil takes another swing, and the count is 1-2. Otters really need to get back to that patient style of batting here in the latter half of the game, as Kynes is kind of in cruise control, and as we've both mentioned before, getting Kynes uncomfortable here would really help the Evansville Otters as they pitch down and away. Khalil chases it for Kynes' 4th straight strikeout in a row.
Yeah, Kynes is in a good place right now, starting to maneuver around the zone well, and it's making it very hard on the Otters. And you hate to already say this sort of thing, but in the 5th inning with 2 outs, you're already starting to get to the point of the game where you're running out of offensive opportunities. Especially if the bullpen potentially comes in and gives up a couple of runs. You got to find some offense quick.
As the first pitch to Armstrong is lobbed in there high for ball number 1. Armstrong flew out to right field in his first at-bat in the 3rd inning. Trying to get something going, and as you mentioned, with the pitch counts getting up there, especially for Adcock after that rough 4th inning, really need to get at least some pressure on Kynes, get to their bullpen just to see if you can just get runs off of their bullpen, because as you've mentioned at the pregame and throughout this game so far, Otters really struggle against left-handed pitchers, and it is evident in this game. The 2-0 pitch from Kynes. High, and it is a 3-0 count. Do you think Armstrong will have the green light here?
Absolutely not. There's no way that Armstrong even tries to swing at a pitch here. Did want to mention that Washington found themselves 4 runs of insurance in the 7th. They lead 7-2 over Gateway as they head to the 8th.
And that, my friends, is a Deerhead sidewalk cafe and bar as Andy Armstrong takes a free pass after 4 straight balls, and that'll bring up Elijah Mcnamee.
Yeah, the first walk of the day for the Otters just goes to show how good Gunnar Kynes has been in this game. He goes from 4 straight strikeouts to now a walk. Evansville has to find a way to make him pay for a 2-out walk here.
And Elijah Mcnamee coming up to plate, this would be a really great opportunity for him to finally break out that slump. As the first batter of the game in the top of the first, he got a double. He didn't come home as Bierman, Baez, and Davis kind of struggled after him. But it would really help for Mcnamee's confidence to advance this runner, maybe get a double that brings Armstrong home, or, dare I say it, a home run out to right field.
Well, and here's the benefit. With 2 outs, Armstrong's running on any sort of contact, and he's a fast runner. As long as Mcnamee does not make it a ground rule double, it'd be hard for Armstrong not to score.
So 0-1 pitch is skied behind home plate. The catcher is running for it, and it looks like the first baseman makes the catch, and Otters go down after having 2 straight strikeouts and a 4-pitch walk. Mcnamee goes down to a pop-out, and the Otters get nothing going. It is the center point energy of the game. Center point of the game. We'll be right back on the Otters Digital Network.
And as we head to the center point energy center point of the game, it's usually a good time to kind of sit back and take a look at how things are going in the game. And Evansville impressed early for me. The first 3 innings, they had a double in each one. The problem is they didn't have anything backing up any of those doubles to bring the man home. And that's why they're still not on the scoreboard in the runs category. Lake Erie capitalized on an opportunity in the 4th, and that's why they're up 3-1 or 3-0.
And it's the thing that's plagued this Otters team over and over again this season, as the first pitch is thrown in from Adcock for strike number 1. Jackson Valera up to the plate. He's popped out to second and flied out to center, and his 2 at bats so far, as that pitch is fouled back. Felix and Sensley running after it, and looks like it's a foul ball, so the count is 0-2. But yeah, it's the thing that's plagued this Otters team over and over again, especially recently, is getting those back-to-back hits. Those leadoff doubles from Mcnamee in the first, and then Sensley in the second, and then a double from Bierman in the third. nothing followed it, and it just left them stranded. And when you get those doubles, those deep doubles that they got, you would think the momentum would start to get on your side, but it's just nothing is happening.
Well, and it feels like every game for the Otters, they end the game with 3 or 4 runs with 10 hits. They get the hits, but they're never put together, and that's been their big Achilles heel. As soon as they can start to link some hits and runs or some hits and walks together, that's when they really get on the scoreboard.
As this pitch is lifted out to right field, Baez is under it and makes the catch for out number 1. And it was kind of odd to me, looking back at last night's game, the Otters only got 5 hits, but they scored 5 runs. So maybe it's not all about getting those back-to-back hits, although that is very necessary to score runs, especially in a game like this one where runs have been extremely hard to come by. It's getting those hits that move the runners and getting those sacrifice flies and getting those walks and just moving the runner.
So a long wait for Adcock here now, trying to figure stuff out before this next at-bat.
So the curveball is in there on the outside edge for strike number 1. Thomas Rivera, 3rd plate appearance tonight. He's got a walk and a strikeout so far tonight. As another pitch hits the outside edge, but not good enough for the home plate umpire, and that evens up the count at 1.
Yeah, that first pitch strike, it was a huge 12-6 curveball. I mean, it got so much up and down.
Another curveball is thrown in, and once again, it hits that outside edge for a called strike. That curveball is really working for Adcock on the outside edge.
I would love to know the breakdown of Adcock's throws tonight.
And I believe that was a fastball down and in, and it gets Thomas Rivera for a looking strikeout. And Adcock already has 2 outs in this inning, an inning that he really needs to work quickly and to keep going in this game.
Yeah, that's his 6th German-American Bank strikeout of the night, and it's good to see him go curveball, 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 and then go in with the fastball and just zoom it right past Thomas Rivera. It shows that he has not been fazed by the couple of miscues so far tonight.
And that's really good to see if you're Adcock. And as I mentioned before, as this ball is bunted down the third base line but foul from Figurito, Adcock is a pitcher, even if he has 5-6 runs against him, he'll give you that length. And it seems like he is not super fazed by, those errors or giving up those hits, and he'll give you length, which is really good. And as we're seeing now, those 2 runs in the bottom of the 4th are completely off his mind for the bottom of the 5th.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that, a guy like Adcock, because he's had so much experience, it's easy for him to kind of toss some of those away and not think as much about them.
Coco Figurito up to bat. He bunted that first pitch down the third baseline. He has struck out and walked in this game so far as the second pitch is hit down the third baseline but foul. Good pitch there from Adcock. On top of it is Figurito, but just a little bit early.
Also wanted to issue a congratulations to Brett Adcock with that last strikeout. It's 450 in his career, which spans over 100 games across AA, single A, rookie ball, independent ball, all over the place.
That's a really great accomplishment as the third pitch is on the outside corner for ball 1. It's a really great accomplishment for Adcock, and just congratulations to him. And it just shows how poised he is and how comfortable he is on attacking the batter and getting those strikeouts.
Adcock, of course, a 4th-round pick out of the University of Michigan.
So the 1-2 pitch is popped up. Looks like Sensley is under it. No, Armstrong will make the catch, call off Sensley, and that is a Zane Cloudfelter half inning. We've played 5 here in Lake Erie on the Otters Digital Network. Hope you're enjoying the game, and we'll see you back here for the 6th.
Hey, Otters fans, 2022 brings new opportunities to catch all of the latest Frontier League action. Be sure and check out the Frontier League and your Evansville Otters on Flow Sports, the official streaming partner of the Frontier League. Never miss a game and follow along all the way to the championship. Just visit EvansvilleOtters.com for links to watch and subscribe today for all Frontier League and Flow Sports content while you're at it. Go check out the Evansville Otters on YouTube and subscribe to the Otters Digital Network. Now back to Austin Hernandez.
As we have Zach Bierman up to plate, Kynes with the first pitch is hit from Zach Bierman. It goes out to center field. He is running back towards the wall, slows down, and it is off the wall, it looks like. Or is it a home run?
I think it is.
It looks like a home run from Zach Bierman. As that ball kind of just carried out to left field where the wind is blowing, the center fielder kind of picked up his pace and slowed down. It looked like it was off the wall from the way he was running. But alas, Zach Bierman gets the Evansville Otters on the board, and that is a very needed home run and run for the Otters.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time before we saw another beer bomb, and that is his 16th of the year. That leads the Otters. Only his second since July 3rd. He has been on a little bit of a cold stretch when it came to the long ball. Great to see Zach Bierman get one to go over the wall.
Jeffrey Baez up to bat, 0 for 2 so far as that first pitch hits the outside edge for strike number 1. And that is really good to see against Kynes, who has basically been in cruise control for the first 5 innings, seeing Bierman jump on the first pitch, I believe, and hitting it out to left center field.
Well, right away, it puts the pressure on Gunnar Kynes. I mean, now he's got to make sure, okay, now how do I navigate through this inning? Already giving up a run, having to face the next 2 of the 3 that are huge power hitters for this team. Got to be very careful with how he throws the baseball now.
And this is a very dangerous part of the lineup, as you mentioned, with Baez up to plate, and then you have Davis and Sensley following, and even Gordon behind them with the contact, with how he hits for contact and gets those runners moving. So if Baez, Davis, Sensley can get something going, we could see this game kind of just flip on its head just like that.
Well, it's got to be one where the Otters not only put their foot on the gas, but keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Do not let up and give yourself an opportunity to, bring yourself level in this game.
The 1-2 pitch from Gunnar Kynes floats in there, and Baez hits it right to the first baseman, Rivera, and that's just an easy out to make for the Crushers. Kind of soul-crushing, if you ask me. It looked well hit off the bat of Baez from the view, but it kind of just floated right into Rivera's glove.
Yeah, it looked like it was really hard off the bat, and then it kind of hit the pause button on its way towards first, and was a pretty easy play for Rivera to make.
J.R. Davis up to bat now. Struck out in his first at-bat and grounded out in his second one in the 4th inning, looking to add more to the Evansville Otters here as he swings at the first pitch that glided in down the middle of the plate.
Yeah, J.R. Davis is another one really due for a home run. His last one all the way back on June 22nd at Florence.
Another pitch floated in from Kynes, and that falls in there for a strike number 2. 76 pitches on the night for Kynes. Again, besides the 3 doubles in the early parts of the first 3 innings and that home run from Bierman, he's kind of been on cruise control for all 76 of those pitches. So really looking for the power hitters of the Evansville Otters to get something going here in the latter half of this game.
And with Bierman's home run, it's his 16th multi-hit game of the year. That's second on the Otters.
As that ball is hit from Davis, great play from the shortstop, but Davis beats it out and is a safe call. Once again, a great play from Irizarry at short, but Davis with the hustle down the first base line, it gets in there safely. And this is a good start for Davis. Gets on the hit list there. 1 for 3 now on the day, and let's see if Sensley can get back it up and get those back-to-back hits rolling.
This home run and single are the first 2 hits of the day that aren't doubles also. Good to see J.R. Davis immediately makes contact, gets the bat out of his hands, and really smokes down the first base line. And now the pressure's on. You've got a couple of really important bats coming to the plate. Sensley, Gordon, Felix. These are all guys who can drive runs in. Just got to keep the bus moving now.
And with Steven Sensley up the bat, he doubled in his first at-bat in the second inning and then struck out looking in the fourth inning, trying to add his second hit here as the first pitch is high and outside for ball number 1. And let's see if Davis, I'm not very familiar with how fast Davis is. Let's see if he can maybe steal a base, or even if it's a deep hit from Sensley, maybe we can see him run home from first.
Yeah, they showed us the home plate at camera, and he had a good lead over there at first. Davis is a guy who has speed, but is not usually willing to gamble. I think that the Otters would probably rather prefer that they let him advance just on whatever Sensley does.
As the second pitch is fouled off, so the count is even at 1-1. The 80th pitch of the night. Just kidding. He checks at Davis at first base, and he's in there safe.
Gateway down to their last strike, by the way, at Washington. They trail 9-2 now. When the Wild Things get some insurance, it comes in heaps, and they look like they're well on their way to keeping their lead atop the West Division at least at 4.5 games.
As another pitch from Kynes, the 80th pitch, dives in there for strike 2. And as you mentioned, Washington Wild Things really padding their lead again. This really makes this game kind of a must-win, and this series a must-win heading into Gateway in the final 3 weeks, where you see that dominant Washington Wild Things team twice in a span of 3 weeks.
And even worse, you have to do both of those series at Washington. You played your one series against them at home right before the All-Star break.
The 1-2 fouled off by Sensley.
Another team we're keeping our eyes on is Schaumburg, who was carrying in a no-hitter into the later stages of the 5th inning before Florence finally got at him. And now Florence has put up 4 runs, but they trail 8-4 as Schaumburg is batting in the top of the 7th right now. Also underway, Ottawa is leading 7-4 at Tri-City in the top of the 8th.
Another 1-2 pitch. Called strike 3, and Sensley looks back at the home plate umpire trying to get some clarification. Doesn't look like he's arguing. Maybe he is. Sensley obviously frustrated with that call. Still talking with the home plate umpire.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we hadn't seen, at that point, it's usually when we see either Andy or Bobby hop out and try to pull the guy closer towards the dugout. But good thing is Sensley did make it to the dugout and did not get himself tossed.
Looked like he was still maybe even just talking to himself, but kind of just voicing his frustrations, as that ball definitely looked outside. I mean, it was, but obviously good enough for the home plate umpire to ring him up for strike 3.
It's strikeout number 6 on the day for Gunnar Kynes. Him and Adcock are leveled now.
Miles Gordon up to bat as the first pitch is fouled off towards the third base side. Miles Gordon today sacrificed bunt in the second to move Sensley over from second to third after his double, and struck out in the 4th.
Yeah, Miles Gordon needs a productive at-bat here, whether it's I think best case scenario is something that rolls to the wall and gives an opportunity for Davis to round the bases, but needs to put something down in the outfield.
And as we've been familiar with all season, Miles Gordon, usually in the leadoff spot, has that speed as that ball is hit out to center field. Center fielder trying to make a play. It looks like it drops in. Davis will run to third base, and Miles Gordon will stay at first for a much needed single that puts Davis in scoring position.
You see, that's the benefit of 2 outs. J.R. Davis would probably barely have reached second if there was only 1 out, because he would have been scared about having to get back. Because it was 2 outs, he was on his horse right away and pretty easily made himself all the way to third base. This is a huge opportunity for Justin Felix. I do want to mention the single there from Miles Gordon has extended his hitting streak to 15 games. That's a team high for the Otters this year. Big congratulations to the Canadian. Well, this is it right here. Justin Felix has a chance to make up for his error in the first inning.
Yes.
I mean, this is it.
Obviously, with that being the first run of the game, that error, it doesn't hurt them right now, especially with that Bierman bomb. But yeah, you're exactly right. We talked about it in his first 2 at-bats. This is where he usually makes up for that mistake. And with runners at first and third right now, this is a prime opportunity for Felix to get Otters more runs.
We saw him turn on a ball hard this last weekend against Tri-City and get himself a home run. Now he's got the wind at his back. Boy, would that feel good for the Otters.
It's the first pitch from Kynes goes in, and it is high and inside, and Felix takes a whack at it for a strike 1.
Well, I can tell you what the intentions of that swing were, and it was to give the Otters a 4-3 lead. My goodness.
Yeah. He wanted to hit that dead left field. Probably break that Sensley home run by a mile. So far today, Felix has flied out to left field and struck out as he digs in for the second pitch from Kynes. Pitch number 86 is in. Felix fouls it off towards the first base side, and the count is now 0-2.
And now you've got to hit a little bit more towards contact as opposed to the big power swings. Just try to lay something down out there, just like Miles Gordon did. At least score 1 and, bring your team a little bit closer.
And as you mentioned, the wind is at Felix's back right now, whipping out to left field. So if he can just pull it just enough and get it past the third baseman and down the third base foul line, it could score Gordon from first. But you got to make contact here as the catcher setting up outside. Kynes hits the spot outside, but it is 1-2.
Yeah, I mean, that was the game plan, and Kynes executed perfectly, but I think Felix kind of knew the whole way that was the pitch he was going to be getting.
Count is 1-2 now. You have Davis at third base, Gordon on first. After a Zach Bierman home run earlier in this top half of the inning. As the fourth pitch goes up and in, Felix takes a hack at it, and it is a strike 3 call. Runners are stranded at the corners. We've played 5.5 here at the Otters Digital Network. We will be back for the bottomless 6 here on the Otters Digital Network.
Bottom of the 6th inning, and we want to take this opportunity to let you know that Evansville Otters baseball on the Otters Digital Network is presented by Old National Bank, your bank for Evansville, your bank for life. And with that, we head back to Austin Hernandez, who's got the call at the bottom of the 6th inning here on the Otters Digital Network.
Irizarry up to bat here first for the Lake Erie Crushers. This is the first pitch from Adcock. Floats in there for a strike one call. Irizarry so far has struck out looking and hit a double. Advanced to third on a, looks like a hit by pitch from White that we'll get into in the next at bat as that second pitch is in there for a ball. Scored a run tonight, Irizarry has, looking to add more insurance for Lake Erie as Evansville has started to chip away after the Zach Bierman home run out to left center in the top of the sixth. Another curveball floats in there for strike number 2 for Adcock.
Yeah, it's good to see Adcock back out here in the sixth, and it's upsetting right now that he's not in line for the win, obviously, because I've been really pleased with him tonight. I think he's worked himself out of a couple of jams as well, but hope the Otters can find some runs and put him in line for the win.
This has been really nice to see from Adcock, especially after the struggles against Tri-City over this past weekend. And, against Lake Erie, he's only pitched 6 innings in the 2 appearances or 2 starts he has against Lake Erie. So already being in the bottom of the 6th for Adcock is really impressive and shown how composed he is, or he has been tonight. As this ball is popped up, looks like Felix is under it. No, the third baseman is under. He'll make the catch. Davis kind of stretching out for it, but gets the easy out for out number 1 for Adcock.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Adcock a little bit more in tune with things on this start as well. It's tough for these Otters right now. If you haven't noticed, Evansville's working a 4-man starting rotation right now. Because Justin Watland is still on the IL, they don't have a 5th spot pitcher right now. So these guys are working on a day less of rest than they're used to. So it's making life just a little bit harder on these Evansville starters.
And it kind of helps, too, from Adcock as the first pitch is in there for a strike 1 on the outside edge. It helps at a certain point because, one, yes, Adcock is stressing his arm out most likely by going deep into games, but he's also saving the bullpen arms in case the other 3 starting pitchers have bad games where the bullpen is needed. So saving those bullpen arms on his days helps out later in the week.
When we saw the Otters use 3 arms last night, new man Braden Bonner pitched a couple innings, Polancic pitched a couple innings, Gallardo and Sawyer both appeared as well.
As the 0-2 pitch hits the outside edge, but a little bit too outside for a ball 1 count. The count is 1-2.
Yeah, certainly a frustrating evening for Adcock. He's had a lot of close pitches that I think he's thought have been strikes, but he just hasn't quite been favorable enough.
The 1-2 pitch is hit foul.
By the way, we do have a final score in Washington. It's 9-2 Wild Things, so they'll have a rubber match tomorrow night to decide the winner of that series. And Ottawa has had to be a little careful now as Tri-City's coming out of nowhere, down by just 1. 7-6, bottom of the 8th. Tri-City still has men in scoring position.
And a strike 3 call. White is rung up on the outside corner for a German-American Bank strikeout for Brett Adcock.
Yeah, that's 7 on the day for Adcock, and I think most impressively is of the 7, 4 of them have been looking. He's got guys to just stare at that curveball. That's got to boost the confidence up there on the bump.
It's been those curveballs on the outside edge that have fooled Lake Erie hitters all night long. And like you said, it is really nice to see from Adcock that he's hitting those pitch locations on the dot and getting those batters to just look at it.
It's one of the nice things about Justin Felix. He calls a really good game for these pitchers.
Another curveball thrown in by Adcock hits the location for a strike 1 call.
Yeah, of course we don't know because we don't have any of that in front of us. I've got to say it's probably a 60% of the night has been curveball for Adcock.
As a fastball down and in goes in for ball number 1, and I got to agree with you. I'd be curious to see his pitch report after the game just to see his pitch usage because I fully agree with you. I think at least 60% of his pitches have been curveballs, and I think besides a few of them that kind of just didn't dive or didn't hit the location, all of them have been impressive.
Yeah, and there's been a few different ones. There's been a couple of curveballs that have a lot of left and right movement as well. But then there's been plenty of them that have a ton of that 12-6, straight up, straight down movement. and that's been the one that's really been dangerous for these Lake Erie hitters.
As that pitch is fouled off to the first base side. Don't know if Chile was...
He was reapplying the pine tar.
I guess the bat must have slipped out when he hit the ball.
Wind is still keeping up out towards center.
I haven't been there. You've obviously traveled with the team to Lake Erie. I mean, how open... From the home plate camera, it looks like it's pretty open, so the wind has a lot of effect, but how open is it?
Yeah, it is fairly open, but of course, it's the lake that does so much. Because you have those big Great Lakes up there, they have so much wind coming off of them all the time, and that's why the wind is usually pretty bad there at Lake Erie. Plus, working right there alongside the first base side of the ballpark is I-80 as well, so there's a lot of traffic going by. It's just a lot of chaos at that ballpark.
As that pitch is up and in and hammered towards the left field side, but it will go foul as everyone kind of just looked and admired at it. But it was a hard hit ball, just foul.
Yeah, he screamed that one down the left field line, but luckily for the Otters, it stayed foul. The wind is starting to shift off towards that left side of the outfield, so got to be careful pitching towards some of these righties who are going to pull.
And I've been impressed with the wind because, I mean, we've seen it go out to right field for a couple of innings. As that pitch is in there for a strike 3, another German-American Bank strikeout for Brett Adcock on his 97th pitch gets him out of the bottom of the 6th. We've played 6 here at Lake Erie. Thank you for joining us on the Otters Digital Network. We'll see you for the top of the 7th.
The Evansville Otters on the Otters Digital Network is sponsored by Bud Light. Our thanks to Bud Light for being a great sponsor all season long for the Otters. And as we approach this back third of the game, the wind has changed again. It's now blowing out towards right field. So every half inning, you get to deal with just a little bit of condition. And the Otters are ready to work here with the 8-9-1 hitters due up. Khalil Armstrong and Mcnamee here in the 7th. Right away, Khalil shows bunt, skies it behind home plate, and it's an easy catch for De La Rosa. 1 pitch, 1 out on the pop-out bunt.
I'm not sure how I like that decision there, especially, I mean, obviously with hindsight, with just the pop-up behind the home plate, but I don't know if, I mean, Khalil is speedy, so getting that bunt down perfectly would probably get him safe, but especially in the latter final third of the game, you kind of just need to get something going. So
that'll now force it into a 1 out, nobody on situation for Andy Armstrong. Armstrong's 0 for 1 on the night. Fly out towards right, And a walk so far. And he'll start off with ball 1. Looked like a good pitch, but it must have stayed low to the liking of Brandon Spivak.
I wonder if Adcock has gotten that pitch a couple of times. I feel like he has, and I'm pretty sure Kynes has too. I guess it just, depends on even the frame job from the catcher.
Now it's Andy Armstrong who shows bunt, and he pulls away, but doesn't matter when he pulled away. It was still a called strike 1 that evens the count up at a ball and a strike. The 1-1. That one's significantly low for ball 2. Ended up about ankle high. Don't forget that the Otters and Crushers conclude the 3-game set tomorrow. Very intriguing pitching matchup, by the way. Joseph Scambelli for the Crushers, Austin Gossman for the Otters. The two teams' current aces going up against each other. 2-2 is the count, and the wind must be really bad right now because Kynes' pants are flapping in the wind. The cameras are starting to shake quite a bit. Even the netting behind home plate looks like it's shaking quite a bit.
Yeah, it's getting real bad now just on this camera angle that we had from the third base side, first base side, excuse me.
And on the 2-2, Armstrong will extend the hands and strike out. And now there's trash coming across the infield. The flags are straight sideways out in right center field, blowing straight toward, basically from the pitcher's mound towards first base. It's that direction. Very hard wind now, out of nowhere.
And the pole is starting to bend too, if you look near the top, just from the sheer just force of that wind. And I'm going to point out a great play from the first baseman to field that trash and give it to the umpire for him to throw away. It was a great play from the first baseman.
First pitch to Mcnamee, zoomed down the left field line, but foul. My goodness, even the batter's eye out there is having a lot of left and right. Mcnamee trying to do something in this 7th inning for the Otters after they started quick 0-2, or 2 outs. 0-1 to Mcnamee, and his bat's not quite long enough for that one. Strike 2, and no wonder there's a lot of wind happening right now. Big front moving in out of off of Lake Erie itself. There's a very good possibility here the next, 20 minutes that we could see some rain here at Mercy Health Stadium. The 0-2 is fouled off behind home, and my goodness, it is hard to see anything on the center field camera with how ferocious the wind is. I mean, those flags are barely hanging on.
I would be shocked if they used the center field camera right now because, you couldn't really see the pitch. You just saw Mcnamee swing just because he was shaking so much. I really hope, having dealt with experiences of cameras falling due to wind, I really hope they have that camera weighted down.
And now a lot of lightning we're seeing in the center field areas out there. So now it's time to kind of keep an eye on things because we could see umpires potentially decide to pause this game as we continue through it. It's hard to tell exactly what they would do. We have played the necessary amount that they could call it if the delay lasted long enough. Another hard hit ball by Mcnamee, but it's fouled down the left field line. Last time that the Otters were there at Lake Erie, it was a Sunday getaway day, and in the 9th inning, Logan Sawyer was ready to hop on the mounds and close out the game, and that's when a rain delay happened. He was very frustrated. The rain lasted about 10 minutes. It was in and out. It's a turf field, so they didn't have to do any field work. We were right back out there, and that's when Lake Erie walked off against the Otters. Well, Mcnamee continues to impress in this at-bat, really fighting not just the wind, but also Gunnar Kynes. Lots of foul balls left and right, keeping himself alive in the counts.
As a batter right now, I would have to assume you're probably going to have to hold back on these pitches just because you really want to use that wind to your advantage, and with it blowing out to right field.
Ball is skied up in the infield. Chasing in is Valera, and he makes the catch for out number 3. Other than Mcnamee's long at-bat, it was a very quick half inning. Otters were not able to get anything going. They trail 3-1, yet they lead in the hit category 6-2. We've played through 6.5 in this one. Time to get up and stretch from wherever you're listening from as we head to the bottom of the 7th inning here on the Otters Digital Network. To the bottom of the 7th we go. Hope you got up and stretched. No, we did here from Evansville, Indiana. And the Otters are still looking for offensive work. Be heartbreaking to see Adcock receive another loss this year because his offense was not able to put hits together and put runs on the board. The wind is continuing, and let me let you know this. There is a front that is getting very close that it's going to bring not only these heavy winds, but also some heavy rain. So we'll keep an eye on that. We know that the general manager of the team came out and had a quick chat with the umpires during that half inning. But we're still playing baseball as the rain has not quite got to Mercy Health Stadium. In the half inning, we are going to see De La Rosa, Gitter, and Owings. And Adcock starts off with a called strike. Ball is then lifted foul to the right side. Steven Sensley giving chase towards foul territory, but he will run out of room before he can get to it. The wind certainly helped that time.
Yes, indeed. And as I wanted to say before, I wonder if these right-handed hitters are probably going to hold back on swinging a little bit, get late on that pitch to use the wind to their advantage and send it out to right field. Because if once it gets in the air, it's going. As there's a German-American Bank strikeout from Brett Adcock on De La Rosa. That is 3 in a row for Adcock.
Yeah, he's got 9 of them on the day, and it's been very impressive to see him not do it all the same way. I mean, some are the curveball, some are the straight-up fastball, some are the slider that has some nice, impressive movement to it as well. It's been a fun night to watch Brett Adcock.
And from what I could tell in that last one, because we're watching the Flow Sports broadcast here in Evansville, they're staying on the home plate camera because the wind is making the batter's eye kind of unwatchable. It looked like a fastball down in the dirt that just got away, and De La Rosa bit and just took a golf swing at it.
And we can also see the mass exodus of cars leaving by the one way you can get out of this place, which is right past the center field wall, and it's just a stream of cars now heading out, as it looks like there could be some nice big raindrops coming down soon here in Avon. A 1-1 stays outside for ball 2, and Adcock will have to reset. We have an angle that they've shown a couple of times that features the bullpen of Lake Erie, and we've seen a couple of men warming up. We have not seen an angle that has shown the Evansville bullpen, so we don't know if anyone is warming or has warmed at any point in the game. Foul ball rolls off to the Otters dugout over there and evens the count at 2-2. Flags are certainly getting their workout today. Straight sideways, left to right in the outfield.
As we see this angle that we got of the Lake Erie Crushers bullpen, it looks like they're kind of just standing around maybe seeing what happens. It looks like the people who are warming up have officially warmed up, and maybe we'll see a new pitcher heading into the top of the eighth is I don't know if it's the camera shake or if it's actually rain, but it looks like
Yeah, now it's the rain as we see both Bryce Studeville and Ryan O'Reilly ready to bail out up there in the seating area. Now everyone behind home plate's going to bail out. 3-2 is fouled into the body of Jake Gitter. That one looked like it hurt as the rain is coming down. And look at that beautiful scenic camera view of the rain falling in front of the lights out in right field.
it is legit raining sideways.
Yeah, it's hard rain. I mean, just sheets of it coming down. Lots of lightning, too. Everyone is bailed out behind home except one trooper who gets to watch a German-American Bank strikeout, a swinging strikeout for strikeout number 10 of the day for Brett Adcock. And now we've got a loose wire hanging in front of the home plate camera. Everybody's struggling. The technology, the batters.
The one person who's not struggling right now is Brett Adcock. That is 10 straight retired batters for Brett Adcock.
They're expecting Owings to hit it hard to the right side. In fact, Andy Armstrong set up in shallow right field as the first pitch comes home. Just misses to the outside edge for ball one. I would imagine they are trying to get through this seventh inning so that they can say, you know what, we played a full amount of innings. We didn't stop in the middle of one if they did need to call it. Ball's fouled off towards the Otters dugout, and I'm sure Andy McCauley is asking why have we not paused this yet, because it looks like it is very hard rain coming down.
And as we see here, Brett Adcock is just trying to get some grip on the ball. He's trying to drive the ball off on his pants. Obviously, with how hard the rain's coming down, I doubt he has any luck. Just trying to get some type of grip on the ball.
Yeah, and in this at-bat, he has not been able to really hit the zone, it seems. Looks like we have one man warming up for Lake Erie now in the left field pen. Again, Adcock misses low, and he's asking for a new baseball again. I mean, I imagine every single pitch they're going to need a new baseball now with how ferociously it's raining. Props to this man behind home plate who has lasted this long.
Looks like he's just trying to gather his stuff.
3-1 is driven out towards right field. Back towards the wall is Baez at the wall. And it looks like it bounced off or must have hopped over. It looks like it's a ground rule double for Connor Owings, even with the hefty wind blowing it out there. And now Matt Beaver has called everybody off. We are in a rain delay in Avon. It's the bottom of the seventh inning with 2 outs. There's a man at second, and we are officially pausing this one due to rain. Keep an eye on the Otters' social media, as we'll be, of course, updating there as well. And we'll also have it here on the Otters Digital Network stream with a little note letting you know what the status is. And once we know more, we'll hop back on here and fill you in. Otters are currently down 3-1. We are in a rain delay here in Avon, Ohio. Looks like it could get gnarly for a few minutes. Keep it right here. We'll let you know what's going on. Otters trail by 2. And guess what? We're already ready for baseball again here on the Otters Digital Network. As soon as they got the mound covered up, because that's the only part of this ballpark they have to cover up, as soon as they had covered it up, immediately they started taking the sandbags right off, and we're ready to play baseball. Braden Bonner is going to get the nod out of the bullpen. They must have not liked the amount of time that Adcock had to sit, so his day will end. But he is still responsible for the man at second base with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 7th. First pitch home to Jackson Valera. Rides a little bit inside for ball 1. Still does look like there is rain coming down, and based on the forecast, it looks like it could be there a while.
Yeah, as we were talking about it pregame, Bonner really impressed in the game last night, going 1 2/3 innings with 3 strikeouts. So that's really nice to see from a new guy in a bullpen that definitely needs some more arms to kind of solidify the back end of games.
Ball works way inside and hits Valera on the back, and he's going to head down to first. There's now runners at first and second with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 7th. Good news is that flag is not being held straight sideways anymore. But there's runners at first and second. Valera's going to take a second to shake out the legs a little bit. As the first pitch comes home to Kimuel Thomas Rivera, and it's fouled off for strike 1.
2 strikeouts on the day for Thomas Rivera, so it'd be kind of nice for Bonner here to get this last out in the bottom of the 7th here with possibly another strikeout, as he's already had in the count 0-1, as Thomas Rivera has struggled so far in this game.
An 0-1 on its way home, works towards the inside edge, and it's fouled away for strike 2.
Bonner seems to be attacking the batters a lot here early, and obviously with the unfortunate hit by pitch to Valera, kind of got away from Bonner, but attacking the batters inside and often here really makes you wonder if he'll probably throw an outside pitch here to get Thomas Rivera to chase.
The 0-2 low, and a nice pitch there. Work towards the turf there, and Thomas Rivera just does not chase down in the dust. But you knew that with the 0-2 count, you had the advantage of going anywhere you wanted. And like that try. Rain is still coming down, not quite as hard as it was a little bit ago. As the 1-2 makes its way home. Crushed out towards left field. Mcnamee will chase back towards the wall. And it was caught for out number 3. So we've played through 7. We've dealt with some rain, and at least right now we head to the top of the 8th. Otters trail by 2. They've got to get the offense going. 8th inning coming at you next. And as we head to the top of the 8th inning, the rain's still coming down here in Avon, Ohio, but we're going to still play baseball. Lake Erie is leading 3-1, even though Evansville is out hitting the Crushers 6-3. The Otters really have to get something going here. I think that this 8th inning, you need at least one of the 2 runs. That way you set yourself up for the 9th to either be tied or only need 1.
And the Otters are in a great position with 2, 3, and 4 in their lineup coming up. So your power hitters are coming up in Bierman, Baez, and Davis. So you're absolutely right. You don't have to get both runs, but at least you need to start chipping away and set yourself up to keep tacking on more runs and try and win this game in the final 2 innings.
First pitch to Bierman is sent towards left field in foul territory. And it looks like the catch was actually, or no, they pointed towards the wall. It's a ground rule double for Zach Bierman. That's a tough one to see just because of the camera angle we've got here. Zach Bierman is the 3rd Otter tonight that has started off an inning with a double. It's his 2nd double of the night, and he's got 3 hits in the game.
And that is exactly what you needed to start off this top of the 8th inning, as there's a new pitcher for Lake Erie. So getting to him as a right-handed pitcher, this is really a great. Honestly, it's the great start that you really needed for Evansville.
Yeah, on the mound is now Trevor Kunkel, the 6'0 righty out of George Washington University, a first-year pro. First pitch home to Baez. Hefty swing and a miss from the right fielder Baez.
That one, that was a really good rising fastball that just caught up to Baez before he was really ready to swing at it, and kind of a defense mechanism. I like to think of it as kind of just swinging and hacking at that, but no connection.
0-1 the count as the pitch heads home to Baez outside for ball 1, and the rain must have subsided enough as fans are starting to return to their seats here behind home plate. Otters cannot strand another man in scoring position tonight. Got to find a way to bring him home. A swinging strike has Baez back in the count 1-2 now.
A great pitch from Kunkel there. Definitely got Baez to swing it. As you mentioned, it was in the dirt. A great diving curveball, it looked like. Kind of just got away from Baez.
1 ball, 2 strikes for Baez. Big time opportunity for him. Pushes the ball out towards center field. Going back towards the wall is White at the warning track. He'll bring it in for out number 1, but it moves Bierman to 3rd. So it's a productive out for Baez. And the Otters once again have a man just 90 feet away.
Definitely going to need Davis to bring him in, because you cannot have another chance where you get a leadoff double again from your leadoff hitter and then move him to 3rd with the first out, a very productive out as you mentioned, and then just leave him 90 feet away. So this is a huge at-bat for Davis. Hopefully he can bring Bierman in and we can get this game closer.
Like you mentioned, J.R. Davis at the plate now. First pitch home to him is sent towards the shortstop. He dives. It gets past. A run's going to score on an RBI single for J.R. Davis, and the Otters are right back in this one.
A great first pitch opportunity from Davis. Jumped on it immediately. The shortstop, Irizarry, made a great diving attempt towards it, but it just scooted past him, and Evansville cutting that lead in half. This is exactly what you wanted from Davis now with Sensley coming up to bat.
I tell you what, Irizarry is so sharp at shortstop. It's surprising he was not able to make it to that ball in time, and that's a gift for the Otters.
You have to wonder if the leftover rain on the turf maybe kind of messed with Irizarry's vision, and the ball kind of mishopped and kind of just led Irizarry astray.
That's true. First pitch now to Steven Sensley, who takes a first pitch strike. That was a frustrating strikeout his last time up, both for him and for us, I'm sure. He was frustrated. He didn't think it should have been a called strike. I think it should have been a called strike. I was just frustrated that Steven Sensley let a pitch that looked that nice go by with 2 strikes.
Yeah, exactly what you said. Sensley was obviously waiting on a pitch that he really wanted. He didn't get it, and at the cost of that, you let a really nice pitch go by, like you mentioned. And obviously, he wasn't happy with it, but you got to take your chances, and it just came up short.
Ball stays outside as the count evens up at 1 ball, 1 strike for the first baseman, Steven Sensley. The 1-1 hit hard to the right side, but it's going to stay foul. As it looks like they are playing for Sensley to pull this ball. Shortstop Irizarry is playing almost right above second base, and because of it, there's a huge gap just to the right side of second. One ball, 2 strikes for Steven Sensley as the rain returns. Stays high and outside. That one is surely a ball that evens the count up at 2-2.
Yeah, rain's definitely making this interesting as it was beforehand, and it kind of makes you wonder what the thoughts are of the crew chief and the umpiring crew here. As you mentioned, it is picking up again, so we'll see what happens here.
2-2 stays in the dirt, and oh my goodness, De La Rosa gets very lucky that that ball bounces in front of him and not to the side of him, or else the Otters would have had another man in scoring position.
It is really nice that it's a turf field, so with that past delay, it was only about 10 minutes or so, and we got right back to playing. Hopefully, there isn't another delay, but obviously the safety of the players is of utmost importance here, so...
3 balls, 2 strikes to Steven Sensley with 1 on and 1 out. It stays low just barely for ball 4, and the Otters have runners at first and second, putting some pressure on the Grapes here in the 8th.
I'm not going to lie. I was honestly expecting a punch out there, kind of just how the ball moved and just where it was caught, and I think that was almost near the location where Sensley struck out last time looking. So... he'll take that break, and it's time for Gordon to do some damage.
Yeah, Miles Gordon, the Ontario native, is going to see what he can do on a 2 men on, 1 man out situation. First pitch to him is way outside ball 1.
You can really start to see, as we saw at the end of Brett Adcock's appearance, that the rain is really messing with the grip of the ball, and it's just getting away from Kunkel right now.
Miles Gordon ready on the 1-0. As we're just a couple of minutes away from another big batch of rain rolling in to Mercy Health Stadium. The 1-0 stays a bit outside, and I'm sure Kunkel is looking towards his dugout like, man, Kynes got that one, why couldn't I? Miles Gordon with a huge opportunity in this game. Could let the Otters tie or even take the lead. A 2-0 headed home. Again outside, and Kunkel missing out there every time. The flags are once again straight sideways out there. They had died for a little bit as that second batch is starting to roll onto the coast off of the lake. 3 balls, no strikes, and I sure hope Miles Gordon has a red light here. 3-0 is just above the elbows, and the bases are loaded with 1 out. This is the opportunity Evansville has to take advantage of, like so many teams have done to them.
And guess who's up? Justin Felix.
Just makes sense, doesn't it?
It really does.
First, we're going to have a mound visit, the entire infield coming in, and I imagine part of that is also so that they can hand around the rosin bag. And the other part is that a pitching change is going to be made as Trevor Kunkel's day comes to an abrupt stop here in the top of the 8th. We'll take a break and let you know who the new man on the mound is right after this on the Otters Digital Network. Evansville with a huge chance in this one. Here we go. Alexis Rivera heads to the mound for Lake Erie. This call to the bullpen is presented by our friends at Business Communication Solution. Contact BCS for all your business solution needs. Rivera on the mound, De La Rosa behind the plate. That pitcher-catcher battery is sponsored by The Answer Auto Repair East. Find all your battery needs at The Answer Auto Repair East, located at 2319 North Green River Road, or give them a call at 812-475-9000. And it's like it was written in the stars. Justin Felix is going to get the opportunity with one out and the bases loaded to redeem himself from earlier, which if his throw earlier didn't happen, it would be tied at 2. He's got a chance to not only give the Otters a tie game, but just about anything could potentially bring 2 runners home. First pitch to the catcher, Felix. Driven high and very shallow to the left side. Owings thinks he's underneath it, and he is, for out number 2, and that one is heartbreaking.
That is the exact opposite of what you needed from Justin Felix. A very frustrating at-bat and a very frustrating day for him, both at that plate and with that play back in the first inning. It's tough for Justin Felix right now.
I mean, all you needed was a fly out to the outfield, and you could have scored a run because you know Davis is quick there at third. And now that opportunity is taken away, and the pressure now shifts over to George Khalil, who is 0 for 3 on the day. One of the biggest at-bats he's had in some time. As again, the rain is just on and off falling now. First pitch to Khalil. Hit hard to the left side of the infield. Played by Owings at third over to first in time. And the Otters are going to leave the bases loaded. Heartbreaking for Evansville. They're able to score 1 as Bierman comes home on the RBI single from J.R. Davis. We head to the bottom half of the 8th. Evansville still trails by 1. And we head to the bottom half of the 8th inning here on the Otters Digital Network. It is Braden Bonner who is sticking in the game for Evansville. You know, it's kind of 50-50 feeling for us because they did what we wanted. They got 1 and brought themselves to within 1, but leaving the bases loaded leaves a real sour taste in the mouth.
Yes, it honestly really does, as the rain's really coming down right now. But it's just those same struggles that we've focused on all night, and as you have, throughout the season, is you can't leave those runners stranded. You had a lot of momentum going after that J.R. Davis single to score Bierman. You load the bases off a couple of walks, and you just get nothing out of it, which is really frustrating.
First pitch home is on the outside edge for a called strike 1. And, that is the frustrating thing. Loaded the bases with 1 out. I mean, a sac fly ties the game, and you're not able to even do that. That's what's really frustrating.
And if I remember correctly, I think they were both hit with it was the first pitch of the at-bat. So, with the new pitcher coming in, didn't really get to see much of the pitcher because it was just quick at bats that just led to a pop out in the infield and then a ground out to the third baseman.
1-1 counts for Coco Figurito as he puts one straight at Khalil, who will make the catch on a line for out number 1. He didn't have to move too far. And that's usually a pretty simple play, but you factor in the rain and the wind and, the break you took a little bit ago. That's a tough play to make in the grand scheme of things.
And just looking at the shot that we have here on Flow Sports, it's just looking at the spot where the turf dirt and the turf grass, there's just a lot of standing water. So, one misstep and you're sliding, or you just lose control. And at that point, even with the ball, if it's a ground ball and you're ready for it, it could just skip or just hit a wrong spot in the area where there's standing water and, there's a base hit.
The first pitch to Kimuel Azari stays a bit outside for ball 1. And like we've said, the rain is continuing to fall. Evansville's trying to claw their way back into this one. Ryan O'Reilly is bundled up back there behind home plate as the 1-0 comes home. Way outside ball 2.
I was just going to say, you got to appreciate the dedication from Ryan O'Reilly. And is that Bryce back there,
Bryce
too?
Studeville right next to him, yeah.
Just
and I believe Lake Erie has a man right behind him as well.
Yeah, and then let's not forget about this trooper right behind the umpire, just sitting there, just enjoying the baseball game with no care in the world, just having a great time in the rain.
That's what it's all about. 2-0 comes home outside again. Now is where you wonder, is Bonner really missing this consistently, or is he just not being able to get a good grip on the baseball?
I'm going to lean with the pitcher here. I think it's just the grip of the baseball. I think, even though right now it looks like the rain is a little bit starting to slow down, but like with how much rain is hitting the ball and then like you're just soaked, you cannot dry the ball off whatsoever. So I think just the lack of the grip there with all the rain is just tough.
And it's ball 4 way outside again. All 4 pitches way outside.
I wonder if Bonner is going to ask for a new ball here or just something just to see if he can get a grip or anything at this point.
The rain is continuing to fall, and, the storm is continuing to stay in the area as it just keeps building on itself as it's hitting the coast. So it almost seems like the umpiring crew said, we're going to have to live with it. We're playing on a turf field. Let's keep doing this.
Yeah.
So that will bring up Austin White with a runner on and 1 out. Otters would love to turn 2 here and get themselves into the 9th. The first pitch from Braden Bonner is on the way. That one's a called strike on the outside edge. The slider worked over there.
Looks like at least 2 of the pitches that missed last time, probably because of the rain, finally found his location. So hopefully he can kind of adjust with the rain and the grip and kind of keep attacking Austin White here.
An 0-1 to the center fielder, Austin White. Stays low and inside. Kind of looked like a curveball. Could have been a changeup as well, as the count evens up at 1-1. Still haven't got to see a lot of Braden Bonner, as he was just traded over to the Otters from the Windy City Thunderbolts earlier this week, and last night was his first opportunity. What I've seen thus far has been good. He has good control when he's not, throwing in the rain. 1-1, and that one's put towards Khalil at short. He goes to second for 1. The turn to first, is it in time? Yes, it is. 6-4-3 on the double play that ends the 8th, and we head to the 9th. Otters, with their last opportunity in this one, got to do it right now. Don't go anywhere. The exciting finale is coming at you next, only on the Otters Digital Network. top of the ninth here on the Otters Digital Network, and Evansville is going to try to come from behind in this one. They trail 3-2 despite leading in the hit category 8-3. It'll be the 9-1-2 due up of Andy Armstrong, Elijah Mcnamee, and Zach Bierman. I mean, really, in all seriousness, you need Armstrong to get on.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You need a patient at bat, as Rivera, their closer, only has 2 pitches from the bottom of the 8th. Really got to have a patient at bat, work the pitch count, work the count itself, and get on base.
First pitch to Armstrong is way outside, 4-1. As we kick off this top of the ninth inning. We do have a final from Florence. Schaumburg defeats the Florence Yells 11-6. Armstrong with a hard hit ball towards short. Rosario played on 2 hops to first in time for out number 1, and the Otters are down to their last 2 outs. Also, Ottawa did defeat Tri-City 7-6, even though Tri-City tried to come from behind in the top of the ninth as well. Empire State trails 6-2 as they are down to their last out. So now the Edward Jones leadoff hitter of the game, Elijah Mcnamee, will look to give the Otters a first runner at least. First pitch home, well inside, and had he not lifted his arm up in time, would have hit him on the elbow.
Very disappointing day for Mcnamee at the plate so far. He's 1 for 4 with the leadoff double in the first inning, which for me, it said a lot, because for him being put in the leadoff spot as the second pitch comes in for a strike call, putting in the leadoff spot after such struggles in the past week really shows the confidence and faith in Mcnamee that Andy McCauley has. But ever since that leadoff double, it's kind of just been it's just been tripped over and kind of very disappointing. Yeah.
Ball gets all the way past the catcher De La Rosa. It won't matter with nobody on, though, as the count falls to 2-1 for Big Hit Mac, the famed Mississippi State man. Bases are empty with 1 out here in the top of the ninth inning. Otters trail by 1. It's a 2-1 count to Elijah Mcnamee. Ball is sent right back up the middle. It's going to get through for a base hit, and Big Hit Mac delivers. Now the Otters need to get him around and, most importantly, get him across.
And who else would you want to have up at the plate than Zach Bierman, who's 3 for 4 tonight with 3 extra base hits, including that home run in the top of the 6th.
Yeah, hits in his last 3 opportunities. Started the day with the flyout on the weird play that he lost his bat on. Ever since then, though, he has been rock solid. As the rain continues to fall here in Avon. The first pitch to Zach Bierman is finally on the way from Rivera. It's driven down the right field line, just foul. That's where Bierman had one of his doubles earlier today.
Wonder if that went off his foot, because he was kind of hopping around after the foul. I don't know if it hit off his foot or just kind of the force of the swing kind of just carried him around. It was kind of just trying to get his balance back.
No balls, 1 strike to the designated hitter, Zach Bierman. There's 1 out and 1 runner on. Rivera gets himself set and fires home on the 0-1. Bierman drives it to the right side, and it's through for a base hit. There goes Mcnamee around second base. Bierman's going to retreat back to first. Is he safe? He is. They tried to go get him. That was a very close play. But now the Otters once again have a game-tying run just 90 feet away.
Perfectly placed hit from Bierman there, right between the gap of second and first. And it was a smart play from the Lake Erie right fielder to cut it off at second, because I know that if the throw was to third base, then Bierman would have advanced to second and would have been 2 runners in scoring position for Jeffrey Baez, which could be very dangerous at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that was Bierman's idea, is they're going to throw to third, let me grab an extra base, and he just about got picked off going back to first. For Baez, just need a fly out. Just tie this game up. You don't necessarily need the base hit here. Just make sure that your at-bat means something. First pitch to Baez. Inside, ball 1. Usually that's not called ball 1. But luckily for him, he starts ahead in the count. So far for Baez, 0 for 4. Has a couple of flyouts, a pop out, and a line out. As some of the hardest part of the storm is going to start rolling over Avon here any second. Luckily, the wind has started to subside at least a little bit. The 1-0 to Baez. Well outside. Good stop from De La Rosa.
Really being patient with his pitch selection here is Baez. So really something you'd like to see. And from what we've seen from all the hitters so far is choosing their pitch and making Rivera work, which is what we needed after that quick bottom of the 8th inning where he only threw 2 pitches.
2 balls, no strikes for Jeffrey Baez with runners on the corners and 1 out. Baez lifts up a ball towards center field. That one could be deep enough. It's actually the left fielder who comes in to make the catch, and it is not deep enough. Gitter throws it in, but it will be out number 2, and Mcnamee will have to remain on third base. Not at all what Evansville needed or wanted.
And that wind absolutely killed the ball with it blowing straight to right field at this point in time. Kind of just killed the ball that was traveling to left field, and Gitter had to run in pretty far to make the play, but as you said, it wasn't deep enough, and Mcnamee couldn't advance home. So
any other weather situation, that's probably a sac fly that scores the run. So now J.R. Davis will have to be the one who gets it done. His last time up last inning, he had an RBI single. The Otters need it right here. Down to their last out. Runners on the corners. They trail 3-2. Long wait for Rivera as he gets himself set. The first pitch home to J.R. Davis is lifted foul to the right side. There is still breeze blowing in from the left side to the right side, keeping those flags up, but not quite as ferociously as it was earlier.
Davis has been victim to being on third twice in this game and not being brought home. With 2 singles so far, hopefully he doesn't become the person that leaves the person at third and brings Mcnamee home to tie this game up.
The 0-1 outside for ball 1. The count evens up. Davis just needs to hit something really hard through this infield, because it did look like they're playing about mid-depth, so you'd have to give it a little extra oomph to get it through there.
You got to remember, too, even though from what we've seen so far with all the rain, it looks the ground balls have been playable, but you never know with any of the water that's on the turf field right now. Any unlucky bounce could help Evansville.
2 outs, runners on the corners. A 1-1 to J.R. Davis. Hit hard to the left side. Right at Owings, he makes a diving grab. The throw to first is in time, and the Crushers are going to win this one on a wonderful play from Connor Owings. Evansville just could never redeem themselves after the early error. They're going to drop this one 3-2 and set up a rubber match tomorrow. I mean, let's not waste any time. Let's get right back to the beginning of the game. There was an error in the first inning on Justin Felix trying to throw out a runner towards third. He skies it into left field, and from there on out, the Otters were playing a leg back, and that ended up being the run that spaced out this game.
And you mentioned it multiple times, and you kind of knew it watching this game unfold. Runs were going to be hard to come by, and you knew that just one mistake would cost you the game, and obviously that mistake did. We'd be totally having a different conversation if Felix made a different decision. And it doesn't help that the Evansville Otters bats didn't get hot until late, and even when it did get hot, it wasn't enough to overcome the Lake Erie runs.
Well, then we fast forward to the 4th inning when the Crushers scored 2 more times, each on sacrifice flies. They took a 3-0 lead out of the 4th inning. Finally, the Otters found the scoreboard in the 6th on a Zach Bierman home run. That was the first Otter run, and then in the 8th, J.R. Davis singled in Bierman after Bierman's double. But then the Otters left the bases loaded in the 8th, and we knew right away this might be the biggest point of the game that went wrong for the Otters.
And it wasn't even though the bases loaded probably hurt the most because you had one out in that situation, there were multiple times where you had runners at third. If I remember correctly, we had each double in the first 3 innings. So in the first and the second, you had Mcnamee and Sensley both at third base, 90 feet away with one out, and they didn't get brought home. And then you had Bierman in the third, who got stranded at second base because of short pop outs or just routine ground balls that couldn't advance the runner. So it's getting those back-to-back hits. It's not even back-to-back hits. You weren't hitting the ball deep enough to advance the runner at any point.
Yeah, the Otters strand 11 in the game. George Khalil stranded 4, J.R. Davis stranded 3, and those are some of the biggest points of this game. I mean, we were one base hit away multiple times in this game from a completely different outcome. But that's been the way the Otters have played a lot of their games recently. And surprise, surprise, it's another scenario where the Otters load up the hit category. They had 10 hits in the game, but only scored 2 runs. Meanwhile, Lake Erie scored 3 runs on 3 hits. And this is an Otters similarity that's been going on for 2 weeks now, is they're able to get the base hits. They're able to do it and get the men in scoring position, but they can't link 1 or 2 together, and that's what's really hurt them. That's, I think, the biggest key. Once they figure that out, the Otters are going to start winning games again.
If we can just find the middle point, because the game last night, we had 5 runs on 5 hits, but tonight we had 2 runs on 10 hits. If we can just find the middle point where they get those back-to-back hits, bring in those runs that are being stranded on second and third, this would be a whole different conversation in, like you said, the past 2 weeks, because it's been a constant for the past 2 weeks coming out of the All-Star break. We've either had 5 runs on 5 hits or 2 runs on 10 hits, nothing in between, and you're losing those games that you think you should probably win and winning the games where you're wondering, wow, that's really fortunate.
Now, that all being said, it's very important to also note that the Otters should not be hanging their heads over a performance like tonight. Obviously, offensively, yes, there's a little bit of disappointment there, but I think Brett Adcock has a lot to be proud of tonight. He finishes this game giving up just the 3 runs, only 2 of them earned, on 3 hits in 6 2/3 innings. He struck out 10 in the game. There's a lot to be proud of there for Brett Adcock, and it's very disappointing that he wasn't able to get the win. It's another incident where he's pitched well, but the Otters have not given him enough run support.
Absolutely, and you just mentioned it. It's very disheartening to have these games pitched from, not especially Adcock tonight, but even other Evansville Otters pitchers where they're pitching quality starts. They're going 6 2/3, they're going 7 1/3, whatever, and they're keeping the game close, but it just wasn't enough. The Evansville Otters bats just didn't bring enough runs in, and it's just another unfortunate loss. But you're right, there's nothing to hang your head about for Brett Adcock.
Adcock receives the loss. Gunnar Kynes gets the win. He gave up 1 run on 6 hits in 7 full innings. He struck out 8 in the contest as well. Alexis Rivera does get the save. It's his 10th of the season. That keeps him up there among the league leaders. For Evansville now, they'll have to wait till tomorrow to try to win their first series since the 9-game winning streak. Ever since they've lost every series other than the 2-game split against New York, this would be a very good one to do. To start off West Division play, you've got to find a way to win tomorrow, especially with Schaumburg and Washington both winning tonight and returning everything to where it was prior to this series.
And you're really hoping out of the All-Star break, playing those East Division teams, that you would start to get the feel of how your team is going to be during the late parts of July and August and heading into the playoffs. And you're right, this is the point now we're back into West Division play. You need to win these series to keep your position and try and advance to get that bye in the playoffs. And it is really important for Evansville to come away with a series win tomorrow night.
Well, that's the bright side in baseball, and that's the right side of a 96-game season. There's always tomorrow for this team, and the Otters are going to try to win the series tomorrow against Joseph Scambilleri, who is the ace for Lake Erie this year. 6-4, a 3.26 ERA, has been a ton of fun to watch, and somehow the Otters have avoided playing him in all 3 prior series. They'll have to do it tomorrow, but they've got their own ace going in the righty Austin Gossman. He's 6-3 on the year, a 2.88 ERA, which sits 3rd best in the Frontier League. Should be a fun night of baseball tomorrow night. We start at the same time as we did these last 2 nights. 6:05 first pitch. About 5 minutes prior to that is when we will get kicked off with the pregame show here on the Otters Digital Network. I want to say a huge thanks to Austin Hernandez, who took the time out of his evening to come join us here on the Otters Digital Network. I say we have you back sometime.
I would love that opportunity. Again, thank you so much for having me here and giving me an opportunity to announce my first ever game. I appreciate it.
Zane Claude Felter will be back on the call with me tomorrow night. For Austin Hernandez sitting next to me, and for all of us here at the Evansville Otters, I've been Matthew Will saying so long and good night from Avon. We'll talk to you tomorrow night as the Otters and Crushers conclude their season set at 6:05. Have a good night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.